Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'm Lorena Creole, of course, bringing you that spice to sci-fi and pop culture analysis, and of course, keeping it real, real when it comes to theme parks. And so glad to have you guys here all with me. I sure do appreciate it. Sure do appreciate it. Very excited about this particular watch party because Song of the South seems to be a very controversial film when it really should not be. But that's what happens when you take something out of, I guess, the realm of public consumption and hide it without truly indicating why. And if you're hiding it, why are you doing that? So my favorite thing is, in order to dispel ignorance, guess what? I like to go to the source. So yes, we will be watching the film Song of the South. And actually, let me show this to you guys really, really quick while we're at it. Yes, we are going to be watching Song of the South, which came out in 1946. A little context: this movie came out about 5 years after Gone with the Wind. So let's put this in context right now. Gone with the Wind was a very romanticized red colored glasses depiction of the South in the Civil War. Okay. That truly was during a period when slavery was going on. And of course, again, romanticized because this is Hollywood's version, right? Song of the South comes out in 1946, apparently protested by the NAACP, which you can understand why. Because given the art that's on the front, this looks like it's going to be set during the antebellum South. Antebellum meaning before the Civil War. There's nothing in this artwork that tells you when the true time period of this film is. So I'm actually going to talk to you and let you know when I do commentary on the film, this film is set during the Reconstruction era. What's Reconstruction? Reconstruction is that time period after the Civil War where the South needed to be rebuilt because General Sherman basically burned it to the ground. Go Google Sherman's March to the Sea. And how do I know about Sherman's March to the Sea? Well, besides the history books, one thing I'm going to share with you guys as soon as I get it up here. Ah, shoot. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Here I am trying to be cool. Okay, so here we go. Okay, here's the reason why. Right, my third great grandfather, his name was Captain Stephen Bradford. Yes, the Bradfords who arrived on the Mayflower. That's exactly his lineage. He is my third great grandfather. Okay. He was a captain in the Mississippi militia. Basically, what was it? Western Mississippi and East Louisiana. That was basically where he was stationed at. This is his honor parole, which basically says that in exchange for laying down his arms, he would not be convicted of treason. Lincoln gave a blanket pardon to Confederate soldiers. They were basically told to just take up their arms and go home. And that was basically it. The reason why I show you guys this is to shore up my credentials about this film. My family is from the South. My family has been living in the Southern, quote unquote, United States for over 400 years. My grandmother told me the Burr Rabbit stories. As a matter of fact, you can see the book back there. You can see it right back there. My grandmother told me these Burr Rabbit stories before they even showed up in Disney, we'll say Disney format. So again, they told me the stories. We actually watched the film Song of the South. They bought me the book, which I have back there. So I'm very well acquainted with the Song of the South. So I'm not getting this whole thing about the film being racist. And I think the reason why people think that the film is racist is either you haven't seen it or you didn't truly understand it when you watched it. So that's what I am here. And that's why I have this absolutely amazing panel of guests to provide commentary while we
That
go
is definitely an antebellum hat over there. That's all I got to say.
Like that.
You need a bonnet. You need to be able to tie it under the.
As soon as my wife sees this, she's gonna kill me. She's going, "You got me! You're sweating my hat."
Oh,
She's gonna go, "I don't know nothing about Bertha No Bradleys."
Oh God!
Oh gosh!
I tell you what, it is hot here in the South right now. I'll tell you what.
Oh, I tell you, it certainly is. The hot season is coming up, but it's going to be nowhere near as hot as it is in here. I see 56 of you folks in here so far.
Wow.
Thank you so very much. I'm so honored and pleased that you are all here. This is going to be great, informative. Again, we're going to be running a commentary as we go along. If you have not seen the pinned comment, that is where you can watch the film offline, pop it up in another window. You can hear the audio through with that, should you wish. There are no closed captions for that. However, your girl has you covered. And here's the reason why. We've got a version here, modified by myself, yours truly, that YouTube will actually let me show you. There is no audio. We have the captions, but you guys here aren't here necessarily for the audio. You're here for the commentary and for the background that we're going to give you, so that when you run into some of your, let's say, ignorant friends, ignorant just means you don't know any better. Stupid means you know better, but you do the dumb stuff anyway. So there's a difference between the two. Okay. So especially for you millennials, you Gen Zers, you Gen Alphas who talk a bunch of smack, especially with regards to Splash Mountain, and say it's based on a racist film, we're going to educate you.
I love that definition. It reminds me, somebody once said you can see the difference between involvement and commitment in a plate of ham and eggs. The chicken was involved, but the pig was committed. So
wow. That is absolutely true. Absolutely true. And yes, 365 route. No, what we show you on screen cannot have audio, because if it does, Disney will pull my stream down and they will copyright strike me. So if you go to the pinned comment that I have, you go to the pinned comment, go to archive.org, pop it open in a separate window. You can watch the film with the audio for free. So it's kind of like you have one window with the audio going on there. You can load a little bit. Another window, you hear us. But trust me, we will sing zippity doo dah. I'm gonna tell you right now.
We'll sing it so well they'll invite us to do a band march at Disney World. Oops.
Okay.
For those who didn't see that story, they had a band recently, Oops, playing that band song right there in Liberty Square.
Oh, wow.
With the flags just going proudly.
Some high school band that didn't get the memo.
Hey, Nolan Thunder. So good to see you.
I heard we get to go watch banned movies that we're not allowed to see and are very, very bad.
Yeah. So bad are archive.org has a copy, so I suggest you grab it, download it, rip it.
Getting it right
Make
now. Thank you for
copies.
the invite, by the way.
Oh, you are very, very welcome. You're very welcome. So we're going to go ahead and get started. There's so many of you guys here. Oh my gosh, 65 of you guys watching. If you are watching this on the replay, please do let us know in the comments. You're part of the replay crew. And of course, any questions that you have about the film. There are no judgments going on here. This is about educating the public, especially with Tiana's Broccoli Hill boat ride Hobby Lobby thing going on. In light of that, let's use this as a teachable moment, so to
And
speak.
can I point out that you just mentioned that ride one time more than Bob Iger did on his earnings call? I mean, I sat there, everybody was making a big deal. Oh, he didn't mention Snow White, but I said, yeah, but this is opening in a couple of weeks, and that's how proud they are of their fight against racism, right?
I missed that. He didn't mention that.
No, he didn't.
He did
He did not.
He did not mention that. I thought he was going to mention it, considering because Ron and I saw the testing that was going on for it.
We were there the other night. It's interesting. Somebody had commented. I saw this that Nixon gave his famous "I am not a crook" speech at the Contemporary at Disney World, and I thought, maybe on his way out, Bob Iger could give a very similar speech.
Well, and also that's where the Beatles broke up legally.
Yes, at the Polynesian.
There and at the Poly, and they brought him the papers to sign and the Beatles. So
I was at the Magic Kingdom.
That place is cursed.
I was at the Magic Kingdom the day Barack Obama was there for something about expanding tourism from the Chinese or something. It was 2015. I think it was 2015. I just remember because I worked there then, and I was driving into work, and I'm like, wow, why are there so many police around? I didn't know. I had no idea it was coming. And then I got to the Magic Kingdom, and then the whole the front of the Magic Kingdom was blocked off by temporary construction walls, and they had the whole center of the kingdom around the castle blocked off so that just him, President Obama, and the press were there to see the thing, and then I guess eventually they opened it up. I don't know how. I think they privately toured him earlier.
Sadly, Go Away Green didn't work that day. I was going to, Lorena, when you showed that picture of the art promoting this movie, it never occurred to me before that whole connection between that and Gone with the Wind, and then basically saying, hey, we can sell it as another Gone with the Wind. Let's put in the beautiful antebellum mansion and all the rest of that stuff. And silly, innocent then, not realizing that years later, people were going to glom onto that as a reason to hate it. And when you said romanticized Hollywood movie, the novel, which was the biggest thing in America for was the biggest bestseller for 6 months, 8 months, a year.
Yep.
And all that speculation of who's going to play Scarlet and who's going to play Rhett. In fact, it's interesting if you go look at the Turner did a documentary about the making of Gone with the Wind, and they have all the screen tests from every major actress in town trying to be Scarlet. And some of the people are people that would have been interesting, but the Southern women were so angry. How could you hire a British girl to be Scarlet? How dare you?
Oh yeah.
So,
history repeats itself,
and they took that personal. Hey, Teresa, thank you so much for that 99-cent super sticker.
Wow.
A lovely, lovely rose.
And
thank you, my dear.
I don't want to delay things any further, but I would like to say this. I happened to ride Splash Mountain at Disneyland during the soft open. And there were these little people, at the exit with clipboards to ask you questions about what you liked and didn't and whatever. And I found out later that the majority of people who loved the ride, but their big problem was, I don't really know this story, and I don't know how all those people fit into each other. And that's why they added those signs in the queue with quotes from the books to try and set up the story, because the movie had been so ostracized, that nobody had ever seen the story. They said, we had fun on the ride, we liked it, but we'd like to know who these characters are in relationship to each other better.
Mm-hmm.
So
can we start doing that for the new Marvel stuff too? If there's a ride themed to the Avengers, like here's the 4,000 Disney Plus shows you have to watch.
Exactly. You need to watch all of this first. Now that linking, well, let's just say there's a reason why your girl used to work for the government on stuff that I can never talk about. Let's just say NATO was knocking at my door when I was a high school graduate. We'll put that way. Nikki D, thank you so much for that $5 super sticker. I appreciate it. I can't see what it is, so someone please tell me in the chat what that $5 SpongeBob. Well, what
Gee,
is
Mr. Krabs, I can't believe she didn't recognize me.
That is one of the better SpongeBob impressions I've heard. That's a really hard impression.
Yeah,
to do.
that is.
We're usually really bad at the voice.
Yeah.
Nice
job.
You have to do Mr. Krabs. SpongeBob, you're burning me money. It's like a Scrooge McDuck.
SpongeBob, what are you doing with those Krabby Patties?
Oh, it's a
I love
weightlifting
Krabby
piece
Patties.
thing.
Those are the best.
Thank you. Okay, guys, we're gonna go ahead and get started. If you go to the pinned comment, that is the copy over at archive.org, so you can have that in one screen, us on the other. We're gonna go ahead and start it on up. So, of course, there is a timestamp in the upper, well, I guess.
Oh, we've started.
Upper right hand corner, so you can see what the timestamp is.
I miss when movies started with book intros. That was so charming.
Oh yeah, love those.
I think I do now that Hollywood's
By the way,
doing
Greg
so they're
Toland
just gonna show like the original movie VHS tape at the beginning since they don't have a book to go off anymore.
But I was going to say, cinematographer Greg Toland is the guy who shot Citizen Kane, and Orson Welles said he taught him everything he needed to know about cinematography. So that's a very serious cinematographer player, frankly, for a Disney movie at that time. He was doing bigger things. So, Claude Coates and Mary Blair.
Mary Blair is like a legend. Her artwork, that when I think
Small World,
me as a kid, her artwork is what I see.
The contemporary. I mean, the whole mural at the
Reina,
contemporary on both sides.
I have the original set of 6 note cards they sold at the fair for Small World with her illos on them that I bought as a kid and never sent to anybody because I said, this is too good. I don't want to give it away. Here we go.
Out of the humble cabin, out of the singing heart of the old South. So the captions are a little bit off with the timing, but again, we just talk about it. It's
at least it'll be better than 90s anime translations, at least.
Oh man, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Thank you. Also, I was running a bit behind, but I didn't get a chance to say this earlier. When you were given all the history and stuff, like the spiel at the beginning, I thought that was so cool. It reminds me of like those old VHS movies where you'd get like someone who's kind of involved with it, kind of giving their history and stuff. I know the kids would usually get bored, but that stuff was just so charming. You don't see it anymore. Like a little reminiscent of someone who's actually been there and has some culture with it. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
I think that's what's missing with a lot of these movies is the context of the time and the history.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
If you don't learn from the history, you're just doing to repeat it. If you can really, I think that's why some reason that some people can't connect with certain types of old movies, games, books, whatever, is because they can't find themselves putting themselves in the shoes of those people. When you can put yourselves in the shoes of someone from, like, say, 50 years ago, you can really appreciate so much more and gain a respect for it, and gives you more reason to really get along with people. It's cool.
We know whether to turn to our race history, though. I mean, if if you don't learn from history, you'll repeat it. There's some people in power who want to repeat some history, and it's not a good thing. We need to. This all needs to be open.
Agreed.
It really does, because when you can control the information, you can control the narrative. Like, there's this narrative that basically Black people and white people just hated each other during Reconstruction. It wasn't a hate thing at all. To give some more context to what's going on, there was only a small amount of people known as the planter class, which my third great grandfather was part of, as well as most of his family, that were the economic I don't want to say engine, but the economic gatekeepers in the South. So whether you own, even if you didn't own slaves, if you lived in the South, owning slaves was a symbol of wealth. If you were a poor white Southerner, you saw slaves getting things, even though they had no rights whatsoever, getting things that you had to work for and that you couldn't get. So there was always that social status. So that even when there were Black and mulatto slave owners, which, yes, some of them were my ancestors in New Orleans, to them, that was part of them getting social status.
It's important to know this too, because it's like, it's a very morbid version of Keeping Up with the Joneses, if you think about it.
Yes, it is. It so is. You had some people who even if they could afford one slave, sometimes they were out there working in the field with them. But the fact that they owned one made them look better in the eyes of society than, say, the poor whites who didn't have any. And then when you had the Civil War finally end, and you're in the South, all of a sudden you have a class of people, slaves, who are no longer slaves anymore. And their men have the same rights, I'll put that in quotes, same rights as white men. So you have this social upheaval that is going on. And this is a part of American history that I've had to study a lot with regards to my family. People had to relearn social norms. You had some people who didn't want to leave the families that when they were enslaved, that they worked for, because there were actually, bonds that were there. Some people didn't want to leave because that's all they knew. For some of them, some went north, risked their lives and went north. Although former slave owners would say, well, if you go up north, you're going to starve to death, which is untrue. There was a vibrant population in the north of, freed and escaped slaves that lived up north and made their way up north. But some of them were just like, well, we'll just stay. So what happened, instead of working for, we'll say in the socialist system, everything is provided for you. Instead, they became sharecroppers or worked for wages. So they either worked for land, share the crops, how that goes. Household helps. My third great grandfather, his brother, well, how to put this way? His brother's son, who was mulatto, okay, and his mother, who was a slave after the Civil War, he had them in his home, where the mother was basically the maid, so kept her and her son in the house with them. I know that's kind of long-winded, but
no, but it's fascinating. I think it'd be really awesome if more people knew this sort of thing. In fact, so much of Hollywood is doing what they can, to like race change and stuff like that, to try to appeal to people and be like, okay, we're doing good now. What would take more guts? What if instead they made a movie about, right after the Civil War happening, about people like that was the only lifestyle you ever knew? Maybe you could actually get introduced to their owners at the time, seeing what their lifestyle was like. And it shows them braving the North, like figuring out like, hey, how are we going to integrate into this new rights that we've never had before? That would make a great movie, actually.
Yeah.
And it's history. It's like educational. It's a win-win.
This part of the movie here, I just got to comment on the actual. When Johnny's dad leaves, it's interesting. a lot of people don't realize this. Like Uncle Remus becomes a father figure for this boy whose dad has just left.
Yes.
And this is 1946. Honestly, when I'm watching this movie and the contents of thinking of 1946, this is breaking huge amount of barriers at that time period to see this come out and have this white family, this white boy. He doesn't really see, as far as I can tell, he's not, at least not acting like he sees the color. Uncle Remus just becomes his father figure, and he's just loving the stories and loving the lessons and appreciating what's being taught. And that's not, to me, it's about people coming together. I think that was Walt's idea when he made it, is about like getting rid of, like basically eliminating the racism and bringing people together regardless of background.
Yeah,
at this point, unless I'm thinking of wrong.
Yeah, at this point in the story, the little boy has been hearing stories from his father about Uncle Remus, because for generations, the Uncle Remus has been doing this sort of storytelling with all the kids in the area. Everybody knows him, and so yeah, this is really, really quite a lovely story. About a really cool guy. I mean,
I just learned something that I never knew about this movie that's kind of amazing. This little boy, Bobby Driscoll, do you know his story? He was first of all, he was the first actor Walt signed to a studio contract.
Ooh.
Along with a little girl, Luana Patton. Secondly, he was they called him the sweetheart team, him and Patton. And they were in So Dear to My Heart with Burl Ives, and which was supposed to be the first all live action movie, because of course this has the animation in it, but got delayed. He played Eddie Cantor's son. He was Howard Hughes had him in a movie that was a big hit. He plays Jim Hawkins, in Treasure Island, which was Disney's first all live action film. He went on to do, but wait, he played Tom Sawyer, or he was going to. He was the right age, but they had a rights battle with David O. Selznick.
Was he in Swiss Family?
I'm trying to remember. He was in Happy Time. He was in Peter Pan as he was the reference model for the close-ups of Peter and gave his voice. Got into radio and TV, did all kinds of things, but he also got on drugs.
Yeah, that's what I remember.
And when you look it up and it first says his place of birth and place of burial, he's buried in an unmarked grave in Potter's Field in New York, because they found his dead body in a tenement having overdosed on drugs.
Oh, poor thing.
Oh my God.
It was so hard when I heard about that.
Yeah, the last thing he did, I didn't realize, was Dirt, the Andy Warhol movie.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yes. And what a story. My God. Anyway,
if I can turn that around, there's another famous Disney Bobby Burgess, who was the Bobby of the Mickey Mouse
who danced on Lawrence Welk and everything.
He was my next door neighbor for 6 months in Branson, Missouri, when he was working at the Lawrence Welk show, and our doors faced each other, so we would run into each other all the time. I didn't know that whole time who he was. But he was the nicest guy ever. I found out years later. Oh wait, that's the Bobby who's Bobby. I'm like, oh.
And now we'll have some dancing from Bobby on Sissy. Turn on the bubble machine.
Super nice.
Well, something else to add, because you guys rightfully notice that Uncle Remus becomes a father figure to the little boy. When his father goes away to Atlanta, you notice that the family is very concerned about the father leaving and going to Atlanta.
Yes.
Do you guys have any idea why that is?
Yes.
That was Luke.
General Sherman burned Atlanta.
Sure.
Oh.
You know that scene in Gone with the Wind?
There wasn't a lot of Atlanta there when this story is taking place.
No, there was nothing. There were Union troops that were, United States troops.
It was like martial law, basically.
Yes, that's exactly what it is, martial law. So this whole era was Reconstruction, where basically not only rebuilding the South, but also seeing proof that they were now going to be loyal to, to the United
And
States
you
and to the
have to
Union.
remember, historically, the worst thing that ever happened to the South was that they assassinated Lincoln, because Lincoln had plans to rebuild the South and to forgive and rejoin the Union. But his vice president, who was later impeached, was part of the party that said, oh, we got to punish those people for what they did, and,
Yes.
and did exactly the opposite.
Yes.
Had
And
Lincoln survived, the South would have been healed better and the nation healed better. And that is really, aside from the straight ahead murder, the biggest crime John Wilkes Booth committed was he basically doomed a lot of the South to decades of being behind and being, it was terrible what happened because of that.
Yeah. And no, Sherman's March to the Sea. Yes. Because my second great aunt, I actually have her journal that she wrote how they had this one place like further up in the swamp, because they were near Biloxi, Mississippi. So where they had like another farm or something where they could escape to, and they were always worried that Sherman was going to come through there, that they would have to flee.
Remember, Sherman basically came from the area around Chattanooga after we won that. And his mission was destroy everything in your path. And they used to do what they called Sherman neckties, which is they would take the rails of the railroad and heat them up in a fire so they could twist them into these knots to make sure that it could never be used again. And, it is, my point is, yes, people die in war, and yes, there's terrible atrocities that go on, but the whole purpose of it was to economically bleed the South so bad that they couldn't support their army and therefore would lose the war. So for a long time, if you think about, well, I don't have a house, I got to build a house. If you get back in business and if you get your crops going, how are you going to get them to market without the railroad? How are you going to make communications without the telegraph? And that was all gone.
Yes, because Atlanta was a financial capital.
Because it was the rail hub.
Exactly.
So much of why certain cities became big and why they were where they were had to do with either rail or river or sea traffic. And that was Atlanta.
And that's why Florida escaped not as in bad a position as Atlanta. They still had some of their rail lines, and they actually built them up even more. But to get back to how you see, Johnny and Uncle Remus, this is not a Hollywood trope. My grandfather told me where they lived, they were extremely poor. There were also white people around them that were extremely poor. And if white people were having problems with their kids, they would send them to the black parents' house.
Yeah.
As I said, if a black family can't straighten you out, we just cannot help you. That was the attitude in the South. It really was. But when you had the Yankee carpetbaggers come down, yes, I'm going to say Yankee carpetbagger. My grandfather was a Yankee carpetbagger. That's what he was. He came down to the South to make his money in cotton and basically extorted the whole population of Waldo, Florida by writing mortgages because his family was freaking Kennedy rich. But anyway. God, I totally lost my train of thought.
Meanwhile, we're singing Zippity Doo Dah.
Sorry.
Yeah, we're totally missed that. But they did. It's like Yankees would come down, and some of them, not all of them. Some of them were just like, well, you can't really trust these black people. I'm like, what are you talking about? We trusted them for like centuries. What are you talking about? You can't trust one. What are you talking about? We don't really understand that for what's going on. So carpetbaggers coming from New England down to the South didn't understand, I guess, that social structure. Like you were slaves to these people.
Because remember, New England was the heart of abolitionist country in the country before the war. That's where all the great people fighting slavery came from. That New England rock-ribbed stock, and
Interesting thing about New England, though, with what I'd read, you had a small population of very, very vocal abolitionists, some of them that were in my family. Reading the documentation, some of the abolitionists actually got ran out of some of those New England towns. But the other thing about New England, and you have to remember, economics. New England was where the mills were. The raw cotton got shipped from the South to New England.
Right.
Raw cloth was made in those factories in like Lowell, Massachusetts, and etc. That fabric was then shipped to
Britain.
Europe,
Yeah.
to Britain. Then, not only that, but the money that was made, the banks over in Europe. The banks in Europe would write mortgages to planters in the South. And what did those planters use as mortgages? What did they use as collateral for those mortgages?
The cotton crop. Well, before
slaves.
That, the slaves, sure.
And that's the whole entire cycle. So when you hear people who will say, well, we fought a war to end slavery, that's what it resulted in.
Yeah.
But no, that's not what.
Well,
it was
it's
about.
like even in 1776 in the musical, there's that song, "The Triangle Trade, Molasses to Rum to Slaves," which was the same process of the sugar in the Caribbean being turned into rum, which went to pay for slaves.
I love looking at this part. Although, come on, how come I missed? Anyway, this used to blow my mind as a kid.
It's so cool. Now, I'm assuming, as everyone in this panel, have they all seen this movie before?
I have.
Yeah, I have, yeah.
Okay. This is my first time seeing this, and like after hearing everything about this movie, this is like one of the most wholesome things I've seen in my life, and it's beautiful. Like, this is so adorable.
Yeah.
Predecessor to Roger Rabbit, when you think about the live action mixing with the
well, of course, Disney did that way back with Disney did it with the what they call the Alice films, where they had this little girl interacting. But
that just blows my mind when I saw this as a kid. Yeah. I was asking my grandfather, I'm like, how did they do that?
Was this before or after Pete's Dragon?
Oh, well before.
Before, yeah.
Oh, okay.
46.
Yeah, it's just,
it looks pretty good, I got to admit.
But a lot of if you look at Roger Rabbit, you can see a lot of influences in the characters. As this goes on, you'll see a lot of like the same language. The please.
Also,
that's right.
You got to think that when this stuff is done now, a lot of actors and certainly a lot of directors and cinematographers have a lot of experience with people playing to blue screen where some monster is going to be animated in later and making it really look like one side of a real conversation between something that's there when all that's there is a reference stick or a guy in a blue suit with red ping pong balls on his shoulders, But back then, it just shows you the talent of these people, the real live actors, to make you believe that they were believing that they were there with these characters in the flesh.
And they're absolutely trendsetters too, because like I have mass respect for all those actors that have to work on like the sets of Roger Rabbit or like Looney Tunes Back in Action stuff, because you look at the behind the scenes, they're lucky if they get like a statue prop to talk to. A lot of times they're just talking to a void.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's an interesting comparison.
Gosh.
Yeah. There was also a lot of preparation too with Roger Rabbit.
Chicken Hill.
Yep.
Yeah.
Chicken Fin Hen.
Hey, you know what always gets me with these people with their this is racist and Gone with the Wind is racist. What do they think these actors were doing with their money? They were raising their kids. They were putting them through college. They were, what was it?
They were winning the first Academy Award.
Yeah. But one of them said something like, if you were going to give me a choice between playing a maid in a movie and being one in real life, I'll take playing the maid in the movie. Thank you very much. It pays better, To ban all this stuff is to deprive people of their careers and to deny their talent. It's just insane.
It's like when you have one dwarf actor saying what they're doing the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and all the rest of the dwarf actors like, shut up, Dinklage. Jeez. We want work, Dinklage. What you
Exactly.
I think Peter Dinklage made the entire dwarf community very upset.
To answer this question, they can be, but they're an allegory for pretty much anyone who is trying to trick you, take advantage of you.
They're the guys in Pinocchio who talk him into Pleasure Island. Hi diddly dee.
Yeah.
It's the same.
They're like the CEO of a company that says they're about family, but maybe tries to turn the table and make it about other things.
Oh, well, there is that. But all I'm saying is they were teaching kids to beware of slicksters, of any animal variety or race or creed or color or whatever. It was about their character. It was the content, and in this case, the bad content of their character, not the color of their skin, right?
Yeah.
That's the importance of the cautionary fairy tale. Like so many modern interpretations want to censor, like, oh, you can't have like Hansel and Gretel like cooking the witch at the end or something like that because it's too extreme. But you're teaching them, hey, don't go in the house of strangers. You could be in serious trouble.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That's what those stories would do. Go ahead, Retro Nerd Girl. I didn't mean that.
In this particular story, all of these little stories about Bear Rabbit is basically about learning how to solve problems with your mind and being clever.
Yes.
That's what
about even if you haven't got money or social standing or people are prejudiced or whatever, you've still got you and your wits and your ability to outthink them and outmaneuver them and win.
One of the greatest lessons you can learn.
Yeah.
Well, of course, it's the opposite from today's victimhood culture of, well, nothing is your fault and everything is being done to you and you're just doomed. And so, vote for us and we'll undoom you.
Exactly.
Quote unquote, undoom you.
Yeah. Well.
That's one of the things that I loved about the Grimm fairy tales is, while they were very graphic, it was a warning, like the Three Little Pigs. Okay. You're going to let some wolf in that you don't know and winds up destroying your house and eating you for breakfast. I mean,
and by the way, about the extreme things in those tales, if it wasn't a really serious threat, you wouldn't pay attention. If it was, well, if you don't learn your lesson, he's gonna steal your Kool-Aid at lunch. That's not enough to teach the lesson. Knock your house down? Yes, it is.
I've got to get going soon.
Okay, Ron.
I wanted to say thank you for inviting me.
Ron, before you go, spoiler alert: the good guys win.
Thank you for letting me know. And not
Ron,
being the ghost
that
followed me home. Hey, thanks so much, everybody. I appreciate you guys. Have a good night.
Thank you.
I will be seeing you in the chat, though.
We expect to see that hat all the time now, by the way. It's
yes.
become your image.
It's mandatory.
Where's the hat?
Yeah.
Where's the hat?
There we go. Man, that's right there.
We're going to do a watch party of the Cat in the Hat with a cat in a hat.
There we go.
Please tell me you mean the animated one, not the Mike Myers one, right?
Yeah, right.
Oh, definitely the animated one. Shoot.
I saw that in 2003. Never again in my life.
That was just horrible. But looking at Burr Rabbit and Bear Fox and Burr Bear, my father actually has a picture of him at Walt Disney World with Burr Rabbit. And
I remember when they were walk around characters. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But then we make the world disappear and rewrite history.
It's like what are you hiding? Or what are you trying to hide from people? Because the common complaint or refrain like trained seals that I'll get from people is that this is glorifying slavery.
There's no slaves in this movie, actually.
Hard to do it when there isn't any slavery anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
there's memories, but
And the proof of that is that Uncle Remus can leave at his own, whenever he wants, he can leave that location. And he, that's another reason why he's a proof that he's not a slave.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. He's allowed to come in the house.
And when you really think about it, what some of these people really didn't want was all these scenes where black and white people seem to get along together. Because if that was the case, then their race hustle was impotent. If it was an eternal conflict or white supremacy or all these things they say, then they've got a job. I mean, look at all these DEI people making $150,000 a year for telling people that they're doomed. If that goes away, if people see a movie like this and start thinking and start wondering and start saying, well, wait a minute, I thought, the whole house of cards falls down.
Yeah, it totally does. And I tell people, don't get it twisted. There was definitely racism.
Mr. Londell's Groovy Movies,
not as violent as people.
I want to talk about this comment because there's an important point beyond it when it says, great comment. People who make the glorifying slavery claim have never seen the movie, and if they did, they weren't paying attention. The answer is, first of all, you're right. Most of them have never seen it. Mm-hmm. But the point is that they believe what they've been told. Yeah. And the longer it's not seeable, the longer it's more difficult to prove that what they were told was bull, the longer those people telling those tales for their own profit can get away with it. Because the longer it festers as a lie, the more desperate they are not to have that lie exposed because they've invested their entire career politically in that lie. It just compounds itself over time.
Yeah, it does. And case in point, and Ron's probably still in the chat, he had tagged me on Twitter where someone tried to tell him that the Splash Mountain ride, that Zippity Doodah was glorifying slavery. I'm like, what are you talking about? It does no such thing. Oh, well, I got blocked for that.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and the issue that of just not listening or hearing or having a conversation about it is also the scary part, is that this movie can be just, immediately put into a category in which we don't have a conversation about what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And look, when these lies, when these beliefs, when these fictions work into the common parlance and into the supposed truth of our world, then you have to remember that some of these things like the bans and the YouTube, you can't use that word, whatever, are not necessarily malicious. They're just the easy habit to give the algorithm. For example, the other day on our show about Hollywood with Vash and I was telling a totally innocent story about a producer who had a German actress in his show, and I happened to mention the H word. I didn't know you could literally not mention Schicklgruber's real name, and you couldn't mention the name of their symbol. And Vash had to dub over on the tape a World War II German leader. And he had to dub over the symbol of a World War II German party because the word would trigger YouTube. Now, that's not because somebody at YouTube is sitting there listening saying, oh, he said that. He's talking about those guys and he's espousing them and he's promoting them. It's because they told their thing. If that comes up, kill it. It's easier than fighting over the context.
Yeah.
So the source of these lies and these misstatements of history and of reality is malice or stupidity, but the perpetuation is, it's an automatic machine being told to do it over and over again, whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent. And
like the scene right here, this was a common scene. Black kids and white kids grew up together.
Yeah. Okay. When are they going to ban the little rascals? When are they going to ban?
Oh my gosh! They're coming for that one.
Oh, because it actually shows people getting along. What a shock! And nobody's treating Buckwheat different because he's black. He's just one of the kids.
I mean,
So,
there's some commentary. I forget which episode I was watching, and my niece was like, "Really? Chinese people can only do good laundry?" I'm like, "Okay, no, let's explain that. That's a
oh,
trope they put
hey,
in there." I mean, it was one of those mild things where it's like it's like it's a product of its time, but it
that's why
gives
I
you
was
a
so
great
delighted.
great teaching moment for that.
That's why I
Yeah.
was so delighted to hear that this splash stuff based around Kung Fu Panda at Universal is a Chinese laundry. It's
Yes.
like, don't hide the stereotype, run with it, man. Go with it.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm sorry. I grew up, in an area that had a lot of Asians, and it was like restaurants, nail salons, and dry cleaners.
Yeah.
I went to school with a girl. She was Korean. Her parents were Korean. They owned like 3 different dry cleaners around town.
Or what about Vietnamese people in nail salons?
Mhm.
Everywhere, I mean, it's not because there's a fine old ancient art of trimming nails and doing what do they call those? You'd know, but those extension things that comes from the ancient philosophy of Vietnam. It's because that was a job they could get and do and take over because
Yeah.
people didn't. In fact, I had never even thought about this, but my wife and I were reading a story. This got to be 3 or 4 years ago about all of these license laws, especially in the South, for professions that there's no reason for them to have to get a license. And one of them was florists. And I forget which state it was, but you had to get a state license and do so many hours of, and my wife said, you know what that is? That's job protection for the little old widow lady who decides to open a florist shop, the little white lady in
Yeah.
town, because she
Mhm.
doesn't want competition from all those other people.
Mhm.
And it's just the practical economic realities behind most of this stuff are just.
Mhm.
And if you ever, again, the longer they go on, the longer
Mhm.
it's more dangerous to expose them because it shows how long people have been duped.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And Peter, you're so right. His mom is a Karen. She really she really is, because it's interesting, the dynamic between the mother and the grandmother. The
Yes.
grandmother obviously values Uncle Remus, and she basically tells her daughter, he needs his own friends. He needs a male figure in his life, especially
Mhm.
since his father is gone. And not only is his father's gone someplace that could potentially be pretty dangerous.
Yeah. Might not come back.
Yeah, very, very, very possible. Because
And
things were very generous.
by the way, if we believe, and I do, that that's a good father, and if we believe he loves his family, why would he put them around all those evil, awful people of another color if he was trying to protect them? If he
Exactly.
thought that was
Mhm.
bad, if he thought that was evil, he thought that was dangerous. I mean,
Hmm.
the logic just doesn't make any of the stuff against this thing real. So therefore, let's not have logic. Let's just ban it so nobody can see it and ask the same question I just did.
Exactly. And
Mhm.
anytime someone wants to ban something, you always have to ask, what's the
Mhm.
real reason that you want to ban it? So people can't go back and say, hey, this diversity stuff was going on way before,
Well, and
this
not
point in
not to
time.
get too contemporarily political, but I'll give you another example. As some of you may have noticed, I'm a member of a certain tribe that is currently under attack in our country and around the world. And one of my favorite writers, a rabbi in Orange County named Del Fisher, he said there's a silver lining to this terrible stuff, which is it's finally exposing all of this anti-Semitism that was there anyway, but they didn't have a chance to stand up in front of the world and show you what evil idiot people they are on all these campuses. They were there and they've been there for a long time, and they were in the faculty and they were in the student body and they were in the administration, but you didn't know because they didn't have a stage to strut it on, and they stupidly thought this was the time. Oh, let's see, of all these various times, let's do it when the people we're for are killing babies and raping women and doing terrible things. That'll make us look good. Surprise, surprise. And now they're out. And now they're out. I saw an interview today with a young lady at, I forget which of the campuses, and they've suspended her because she got arrested at these demonstrations, which were against the law because they were trespassing. And while she's suspended, she can't take her final exam, which means, but my parents were coming for graduation and now I can't walk across and get my diploma. Poor baby, grow up.
I tell you.
Listen, at least when people like Gandhi and Martin Luther King and other people demonstrated for causes, they went knowing, hey, I'm going to wind up in jail, or I'm going to be hurt, or if I go on a real hunger strike, I'm really going to starve. And we're willing to pay that price to make their point. These people want to virtue signal their wonderfulness, and then can I have a hamburger now? So I saw a great Babylon Bee headline. They said they emulate their great forefathers by not getting food either, or something like. It was just,
my gosh, this is such a cute scene with the puppy.
Oh yeah,
but
I'm sorry.
You notice that they're with the puppy, but you notice the little girl. Okay, she's not rich. Her family is sharecroppers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Maybe we should tell people what sharecroppers are, because some people don't know.
Oh yeah. Well,
yeah.
sharecroppers, which is another form of indentured servitude. It is what it is. Or basically, in exchange for, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's kind of like in exchange for, I think it's like a mortgage on your land or something like that. You raise crops in order to pay.
You're a
that
serf.
mortgage. That's it. You are basically a serf. So you have to raise all those crops, and you have to
raise
pay that money
100%. You get
off.
to sell 20%. The rest goes to the boss.
Yeah, the rest
Yes.
goes to the boss.
Basically.
You have to buy anything from the store
I owe my
that's
soul
the
to the
store
company
that's
store.
there. That goes back, on your account. They, take money from you, from that. And in some mortgages, yes, some of the mortgages that my third great grandfather and my second great grandfather wrote, you were even restricted by what kinds of crops you could grow on your land. But remember,
and by the way, this concept was not just agriculture. All of these mining towns where the company gave you a house and the company built a church, and there were all these great things. Yeah, but that all came out of your wages. And anything you wanted to buy, you bought at the company store and everything. So, how much are you making? I don't know, $10 a month. How much do you get to keep? $1.50. It wasn't taxes. It was being paid to the owner of the mine in return for the right to be his indentured servant, basically, like you said.
Yeah,
So,
that's exactly what it is. I mean, I've read like some of the mortgages, and they were just draconian.
and we're talking
with a
white
lot of
people
this
and
stuff.
black people here. This wasn't something being done to the slaves that you.
Yes,
It was everybody.
it was everybody, because remember, at the end of the Civil War, Confederate money was worthless.
Yep.
Worthless. So what did most people have? Land. So you had Yankee carpetbaggers, again, like some of my ancestors, who had a crap ton of money and said, "Yeah, we'll lend you money,
But
we'll
in
lend you
return,
money, and in turn, this is what we want." Even to
I would
the
ask-
point where telling some people there were things that you couldn't raise on your land
how
unless
many
you
people
got permission.
who out there have a mortgage could pay the bank in whatever it is you do for a living, products? Because I don't think that would work too well nowadays, would it?
Yeah.
And the compassion. I remember reading that at Appomattox, when Lee is there surrendering the Confederate Army to Grant made a point of telling Lee asked him, they can all keep one rifle because they got to go home and hunt for their food. And if we take their rifle and their horse, if they had a horse,
Yes,
so they could
and the
plow.
horse.
Which, what army ever did that to the other army? Usually they threw him in a
No.
camp and that was the end of but he was trying to, even then, how do we rebuild this country? We're all Americans. So.
Yeah. And also you had, Confederate soldiers that treated, Northern POWs horribly.
Oh,
And
Andersonville.
even that, if they were captured, like say black soldiers, like Massachusetts 54th, a lot of them were just shot and killed on sight.
Yeah.
So there was so much animosity. The fact that at the end, Lincoln was just like, look, just sign this pardon, take up, your rifle, your horse, go home and rebuild.
And remember that right after the war, the southern states, they didn't get senators and congressmen. They had to go a certain amount of time proving that they were loyal and jump through hoops
Yes.
before they even got represented again in the government, even though they technically were rejoined to the United States.
Mm-hmm. And this was so cute. They bring the
Wasn't
puppy,
it?
and he wants the puppy, and they're trying to make every excuse to try and keep the puppy. And he talks to Uncle Remus.
My apologies for dipping for so long, but I come back and I see one of the cutest dogs I've ever seen in my life.
I
Like,
do, isn't it
Cute.
so
Yeah.
cute?
Yeah.
what is that dog's name? It's so wonderful.
Oh,
I thought you were a cat guy. I don't know.
I am a cat guy, but I had a dog, Jack Russell Terrier, for like 16 years. So,
oh my
Hello,
gosh.
Paul.
There's so
One
much
thing I
energy.
really adore about this movie, and which a lot of people can construe it differently, is the image of the working class people. They actually show them coming off work and going home to their spaces.
Mhm.
And I think this is part of our history. And by banning this movie, there's no record of it. It's gone.
And by the way, who do you think buys the tickets at the movie theaters but working class people? If it was only rich people, you wouldn't need a 2,000 seat house. You wouldn't need, So, there's a practical reality. People see themselves in movies. Even people who maybe are not heroes or swashbucklers, they still, for an hour and a half, they see themselves as John Wayne or Errol Flynn or Maureen O'Hara or that's what the movies are about, is seeing yourself in it. So my God, if we let this out and people saw themselves in these people, but I'm not racist, well, neither are they. End of story. And the whole house of cards of political BS goes away.
And it's
things that they used to control people no longer exist.
Well, but I'm just saying, we're watching this, and it's a cute and it's a charming and a wonderful movie, but it's a dangerous movie for some people.
Yeah.
Look at those evil butterflies.
No, but
cruel?
it's dangerous. It's a threat to their whole game, their whole racket.
Exactly. If your opponent knows how the chess game is played, all of a sudden you're not the head honcho anymore.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well,
That was
also,
funny, that comment.
there's this idea, though, that, for a lot of minorities, not showing them in a position of always trying to show them in a position of equal status and of power. When you're talking about a movie that was set in 1946, we're talking about an accurate depiction of what was going on at the time to a certain degree. There's a lot of Hollywood, gloss on it, but
Yeah.
this is, let's not. You have those fantasy things like Bridgerton and all that stuff, but this is more realistic in the way things actually were.
And
It's
by
nice
the
to see
way,
the happier side of some things too. Like your point you were making earlier, Nerd Girl, about like coming home to the families and stuff. We're so used to seeing so much of history, like whether it's in or out of this topic of just like how cruel our distant relatives were and stuff. It's kind of nice to see, them actually enjoying nature and showing like, hey, there can be a more ideal world. There were a lot of problems, obviously, but it kind of shows like we have more common good in us than what we realize, and we can really learn from our ancestors in certain things with nature.
By the way, this scene of him walking over that hill, anytime anybody refers to this movie, that's usually the scene they use to illustrate it for some reason.
It's
Uncle Remus coming over
iconic.
that hill with the animated butterflies and
Yeah.
I think it was used in like VHS promos too and stuff like that, trailer shots, like that scene of him hopping away. That's pretty iconic too.
Yeah.
But there was a comment that you put on the screen. 365 RAL said, "Ooh, some folks think this part is racist since black people are singing on the plantation, even though they aren't slaves anymore." You know what that reminded me of?
Yeah.
Another semi-banned movie for the same reason, but in a different context. What about that scene in Blazing Saddles where Slim Pickens tells them to sing, and they sing Cole Porter? He said, no, not like that. You know, Camptown races, not I get no kick from champagne, you know.
Oh, that was hilarious.
Oh.
And they're singing a totally different song. And then it turns out that the
And then
white
he
guys
tells them
are
to sing a
singing
spiritual, and they all look at each other like,
races.
what's he talking about? They don't even know that song, right?
It's so funny because and again, to add more context, or I guess some people would think that scene was racist with the people like walking and singing. That was a thing. People had to walk long distances. Do you think they're like quiet? No. I mean, that was a thing, to be out there and to be, you know, like singing. I remember like my grandparents, my great grandparents doing, I know, date myself. I would actually have to help them do laundry when I would stay with them for the summer, like in hanging the laundry up outside and everything. They would start singing for no reason.
Well,
just to do it, just to enjoy song.
That was your car radio before there were cars.
Exactly.
That was Punch Bug before there was Punch Bug. That was something to make the day go by.
Yeah.
And make it not work but play to some degree.
Exactly.
And not to mention, it wasn't solos. It was group. It was
Frog
people
is
singing
together.
Singing together, yeah.
I just looked at that. Like he's really pissed off at Burr Rabbit. Said, I could take care of myself. Oh, was this the Tar Baby story?
Oh yeah,
that's my favorite one, the Tar Baby. You know, before F around and find out, we had the Tar Baby story.
Bribe me with a Tar Baby? Go fund yourself, Bob.
That was just hilarious. I'm like, why is he so stupid and he keeps punching the Tar Baby? Which is, you know, just it was basically a trap. I mean, we'll get to that point, but it's basically a trap set by Burr Fox. Because it's considered to be, first of all, it's considered to be an offense in the South if you walk by somebody without saying hello. Like, it's a code of civility. You see somebody, you're supposed to say hello. If they say hello to you, you're supposed to say hello back.
Yeah, parts of the Midwest too.
Yeah, those niceties are you know, are expected.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter what race you are either.
That is correct.
You know, it's funny how certain phrases from this movie come back to you. Knock your head clean off. I remember that so well.
Off. Yes, absolutely. It is.
Yes.
It is with that whole with singing like that. It is. I mean, I didn't think about it that deeply until it's like I saw like a couple of other like documentaries of some like African tribes and just the different ritualistic songs that they would sing. Even with some Native American tribes, there's certain songs that they sing for certain reasons.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
This film is genuinely funny. Like, this is hilarious.
It's like Looney Tunes funny.
It is. It's very.
It has the same kind of like setup. It kind of reminds me of like the old Roadrunner cartoons a lot.
Yeah.
And
yes.
I would say this is as close to the Warner Brothers style as Disney animation ever got.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Definitely see a lot of Bugs Bunny.
And I don't think Walt would have been comfortable with being this kind of brash, this kind of hard edge the way Warner's was, except that placing it in this pastoral context, it takes that sting out of it. You know, somebody, was it you, Nolan, or somebody in the chat earlier said that Brer Rabbit is their Bugs Bunny.
Yeah.
But Bugs Bunny is, well, I remember Mel Blanc saying that when he went in to do the voice, and they said, what kind of voice is it? And they said, well, he's kind of a New York tough guy. And I thought, well, that's either Bronx or Brooklyn. So I put the two together, and that's Bugs Bunny. So that's where he came up with the idea for how to make that voice work. Bronx and Brooklyn merged.
Yeah, the story teaches lessons that help people
Yes.
grow up. There's a group in
Yeah.
power that doesn't want people grown up, wants them dependent on government handouts. There are people banning movies like this. Yet, especially teaching kids what to do, because I know it's kind of scary for some of y'all, but at this time period, kids would go out, come home when, certain time. They were just out doing whatever.
And guess
But you
what's
got
not in
taught
this
lessons.
movie?
You don't talk to strangers. You don't do
Guess
X,
what's
Y, and
missing?
Z.
You know what's missing
What?
in this movie?
What?
There's no social workers. There's no bread lines. There's no welfare or disability checks. A whole bureaucracy was missing then that all has a vested interest in keeping working now. It's like in a different context. I remember when during the oil embargo, when we were buying gas on odd days of the week, depending on our license plate numbers, and they started the Department of Energy, and that was 25,000 people with offices and cars and computers and pensions who, if they solved the energy problem, were out of a job. Didn't work, did it? What a surprise.
Oh, I love this. Oh my gosh. The tar babies.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, he's so dumb. And he took that personal. Like, how dare you not say good morning to me?
Okay, that's a meme that never was, that image right there. The face you make when they change Splash Mountain to Tiana's Bayou Adventure.
Yes.
Haven't seen a bottle of hot sauce in this thing yet. I don't know why, but not even a beignet. What's wrong with these people?
Yeah, no one's looking for a ingredient. You know how you look for an ingredient?
It's Georgia.
You go
That's
to the
where
neighbor's
gumbo
house
comes
and say,
from,
"Do you
isn't it?"
have such and such and so and so?" Oh my gosh.
There's a line. There's a line for you. As far as Tiana and Georgia versus Louisiana and whatever, the only thing blackened in this movie is the tar baby. And Paul Prudhomme didn't make it.
Nope. Nope.
I know it's a trope, but I always love it when like the villains turn against each other. Because there's a deep moral to it that your selfishness is just going to turn everyone into your enemy at the end of the day. And I think it's also a great lesson for the kids.
Well, it was a lesson Stalin had to learn the hard way.
Funny story about that one, Mr. Londell's Groovy Movies, and I'm glad you brought this up. My father actually got in trouble in school for telling that story about the Briar Patch. Especially, he repeated something he wasn't supposed to repeat about it. And at the end, where Burr Fox is basically clowning, where Burr Rabbit is basically clowning Burr Fox and Burr Bear for throwing him over in the Briar Patch, he was like, "Y'all kiss my ass. This is where I was born at." And he got in so much trouble. So every time I would go in Splash Mountain, I would remember that story.
I was hoping you were going to say you'd shout that at the top of the ride before you took the splash. I'm like, yeah, you go.
I should have.
I've heard some of the most crazy things at the top of roller coasters. It's great.
Oh, like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. Yeah.
Oh, man. Especially if you get teenagers on a roller coaster, you'll hear stuff you'll remember for the rest of your life.
Well, you remember they used to nickname Splash Mountain Flash Mountain.
True. Oh, my gosh. I missed the
go
photo
Google
ops.
Iglesias. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh.
You have to hear his story about going to Disneyland and going on Splash Mountain and why they call it.
What was the name again? I'm going to totally look that up later.
Gabriel Iglesias.
Yeah.
Last name Y. I think it's instead of Iglesias with an I, it's Iglesias with a Y. Gabriel Iglesias. Fluffy. Look up Splash Mountain. Oh my God, that story's so darn funny. Maybe I'll play it at the end of this. much for it.
Yes.
I will get claimed for it, but dang it, it's worth it.
No. All the best stuff gets claimed. What the heck?
Oh. But let's see. Hang Solo, did not the NAACP protest the movie in the first release? Yes, and we actually talked about this in the beginning. I'd never heard a reason for why they were protesting, just that they were protesting and they were worried about images of Black people unfairly being portrayed. I'm like, well, where are they getting this idea from? So I don't know what just popped in my head. Who knows? Maybe the Holy Spirit told me. I don't know. But I said, let's see what year Gone with the Wind came out. Gone with the Wind came out 5 years before this movie. And the reason why Gone with the Wind was so controversial is because that was actually set during a time of slavery, and it made all the slaves look like they were happy all the time. It was a very romanticized version. Okay.
And let's remember that I would say, 75% of all the Westerns ever made were made during a time when slavery was going on in the South. But the movie didn't take place at that time, so we won't pay any attention.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a copy of Joel Handler Harris' book of Burr Rabbit Stories. It's fantastic. I do want an original copy of his written stories, because I have the Disney version back here. Yeah, I do want to visit Tokyo Disneyland. Oriental Land Company is being pressured to change Splash Mountain.
And that terrifies me because I've said before on quite a few things that me and my mother are really into theme parks. It's like our really bonding thing together. And I never first time I went to Disney World, Splash Mountain was closed for maintenance. So to this day, I have still yet to ever ride that. And I want to go to Tokyo, and with the economy, it makes it really hard right now. But I'm just like, Bob Iger, just stop. Just wait a few years. Come on. I want to ride that darn ride.
By the way, just because you said you want one, I just put Joel Chandler Harris books, into the Magic search engine, and they're not that crazy. I mean, eBay and places, there's like $50, $52 for 1950s hardcover versions. Now you go back to, first editions and they get pricey, but vintage. Anyway.
MG, yes, I know. I saw it.
I was surprised it was that inexpensive, frankly, but he was born in Eatonton, Georgia, and he served as an apprentice on a plantation during his teenage years. In 1848, he was born.
Wow, Mr. Londell's Groovy Movies. That is wow. You heard no one talk about that. That's why you always got to do your own research, folks. Don't just believe what people tell you. I'm just like, check what I say. Check what a lot of people say.
Well, that's interesting. It says Joel Harris briefly attended Kate Davidson School for Boys and Girls, but transferred to Eatonton School for Boys. He had an undistinguished academic record and a habit of truancy, but he excelled in reading and writing, but mostly was known for his pranks, mischief, and sense of humor. So naturally, he was attracted to these stories. Practical jokes helped him cloak his shyness and insecurity about his red hair, Irish ancestry, and illegitimacy.
Wow. Hey,
That's
Darth
kind
Plato.
of interesting, isn't it?
Check that out. I'm glad he's in the chat. Frederick Douglass talks about how lots of slaves satisfied with their lot, others weren't. Writes about slaves from different caps, would argue whose master was a more moral man. Yeah, it's some did act like they were happy with it, others didn't, fought against it. It was a very strange social structure. My master is better than yours. No, my master is better than yours. I had my grandparents who would tell me stories that they're, because their grandparents, most of them, were slaves, some of them weren't. But, a lot of them, if they felt that they were being treated very, very, very good, very well, they would shout that from the rooftops. They would make it known, much to the chagrin of other slaves who are just like, you gotta just shut up.
You want to talk about prejudice? I'm reading the bio of Harris. Everywhere it mentions how people made jokes and made him feel bad. Why? Because he had red hair.
So it was a ginger.
That's all I am. That's all it takes, right? So,
nothing wrong with being a redhead.
He was the butt of jokes around the office because of his red hair.
Yeah.
And he started out in Forsyth, Georgia, right where my wife's family is around there, and the Monroe Advertiser, and moved to the Savannah Morning News, the largest circulation paper in Georgia.
It was Iglesias with an I. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Wow, I screwed that one up, didn't I?
It's not a common word, though.
No. If slavery is all you know, it's not surprised people would accept it and keep it moving. Yeah, that's another thing. Some people that's all they knew. They didn't want any change, in their status. But don't take my word for it. Do yourself a favor and look up the WPA slave diaries and read word for word what former slaves would say about their life. There's one for like every state. I have a copy of the one for Florida. But just to read that and the stories that they're tell, that there's some of them who they didn't want to leave. They didn't want to be emancipated.
For people who don't know what the WPA was, that stood for Works Progress Administration. And it was a Depression era thing to give people a job, in this case, writers. And they did it not only with things like the slave diaries, they did basically tourist publications about all the states. And of course, they had theater groups, and they built school buildings. In fact, I was telling somebody the other day, was talking about the great movie It's a Wonderful Life. And you know that scene where the basketball floor opens and they fall in the pool underneath?
Mm-hmm.
That's my high school.
Oh, wow.
Wait, really?
That's Beverly Hills High School, and that's real, and it was built by the WPA. And I used to swim in that pool and play basketball on that court.
Gosh.
So people think, it's a movie set. No, it's not. But listen to this. The reason that Joel Chandler Harris gave for writing the Uncle Remus stories, quote, to preserve in permanent shape those curious mementos of a period that will no doubt be sadly misinterpreted by historians of the future, unquote. Was he prescient or what? Was he? God.
Yeah.
Little did he know. Isn't that something, though?
Well, the other thing that kind of really is so embarrassing is that when I see the people of color in this movie, I feel incredible pride in the work and all of the things that they were able to do at that time to show and display the people. And I don't know why people are feeling shame about this. At all times you must be the master. What about the people who work hard? The people who actually do all of these amazing things to make the country great. This is the example that's left. And by erasing these movies, you erase the history of that and the proof of it.
Agreed.
Too.
Get this. He was invited to the White House by Theodore Roosevelt. 2 years earlier, Roosevelt had said, quote, presidents may come and presidents may go, but Uncle Remus stays put. Georgia has done a great many things for the Union, but she has never done more than what she gave Mr. Joel Chandler Harris to American literature. That's the guy they want to censor. That's the guy they want to, of course, they probably don't like Teddy Roosevelt either. So,
And it doesn't make sense, but it does make
and
make
when he
sense.
died, the New York Times Book Review said in his obituary, Uncle Remus cannot die. Joel Chandler Harris has departed this life at age 60, but his best creation with his fund of folklore will live in literature forever.
That's
until
beautiful.
until Bobby comes along. So,
Wait, was that written in the obituary too?
yes, no. Well,
Knowing Bob, he would write his name in there.
Oh, you know he would.
see, he had two possibilities. One, let's censor it. The other one, let's rename it Disney's Uncle Remus.
Yeah,
because everything has to be. Let's see.
I think with some people, and I forget who I had this argument with, someone who said, oh, Uncle Remus, he seems so subservient, and the way that they're talking is outdated and is racist. I said, well, wait a minute. The way that Uncle Remus speaks is exactly the same way that my grandparents and my great grandparents spoke. It was just how they did. A lot of them were not super educated. A lot of them maybe only had like about a 5th grade education. Like my grandfather, he only had like a 5th grade education because he had to help out on the family farm. And it wasn't until he entered the army in World War II that he used his GI Bill to get his GED in order to finish school. But it's like, so are you telling me that the way my grandparents speak are racist?
Yeah.
That makes absolutely zero sense. My grandmother knew that her speech was not the best. And a lot of times she was kind of embarrassed with the way that she spoke, but she was very adamant that I spoke proper English. If I even slipped into the kind of dialect that she had, I would get corrected very quickly that is not the way that I was supposed to speak.
It's funny the people who
sounds cool.
loved these and hated these. Alice Walker accused Harris of, quote, stealing a good part of my heritage.
Didn't belong to you.
In a searing essay called Uncle Remus, No Friend of Mine. Oh, God.
It
and of course, Toni Morrison wrote a
belong.
novel called Tar Baby, And,
yeah, exactly.
And she said she learned the story from her family and she didn't know any debt to Harris. And they've collected quite a few African folk tales. They said it's more difficult because there isn't as much written evidence or translatable evidence of ancient Africa. There's one in the Ila language, Hair Makes the Elephant Afraid, in Rhodesia, and there's some in Borneo and in northern Nigeria called A Fable of Jackal and Hyena that's very similar to the rabbit stories. Let's see. Ralph Ellison was positive about Harris's work, and he compared him to Aesop. He said, Aesop and Uncle Remus have taught us that comedy is a disguised form of philosophical instruction, and especially when it allows us to glimpse the animal instincts lying beneath the surface of our civilized affectations. That's a great line, isn't it?
And why would you argue with Ellison?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Makes sense. What did the father's boy do for a living again? I want to say he is probably in finance. He was obviously part of the planter class, so he's got money. So he's very possibly a banker. Even if he is a planter, he's got a lot of money. He's probably very educated. Here's another thing to remember. Education in the South was crap. All right. If you had money, if you had money, and this is true, if you had money, if you had a lot of money, you sent your kids to Europe to be educated. But if you had enough money, you shipped them up to the Northeast to be educated. So if you go back and you read some of the newspapers by this time, people who were from the planter class, like for example, up at like West Point, Okay, students would actually bring some of their slaves with them.
Oh my.
So it was very interesting when they would hear these abolitionist messages, but yet their master is attending, West Point, and they're getting all these ideas. So when the Civil War popped off, you can read these newspapers online. What happened? It's like they left and they went south. So there was this huge kerfuffle on university campuses in the Northeast between the Southern students who were studying there and their slaves were there with them, and the Northern students who were there at the same time. And with a lot of Southern students are just, well, we'll put it this way. One of the arrogance and one of the reasons why the South lost the war is that they didn't believe that their slaves would ever turn against them, which is what they did. They were feeding intel.
Surely
to
that
the
would
Union,
never happen.
sabotage. Yeah, they love us. We give you everything.
Listen to this I found about the writers who were influenced. Beatrix Potter.
Man. Okay, thank you, Mr. Lindell's movies.
Beatrix Potter. That's okay. She illustrated stories from Uncle Remus at the same time she did her first drawings of Peter Rabbit. And she adopted into her books on Peter Rabbit the Uncle Remus story words Cottontail, Puddle Duck, and Lippity Clippity.
Mm-hmm. Aww.
A. Milne borrowed diction, plot, and narrative structure from the Brer Rabbit stories. And look out, Pooh, they're coming for you. William Faulkner, Ezra Pound, T.S. Eliot. I mean, you know.
This is a fascinating chat by Joshua Harris. I did not know this.
Yeah.
I didn't either.
God.
This movie is the reason Walt Disney has an FBI file. The reason is because the WDP studio board of directors were incensed that Walt would portray blacks in such a positive light.
So they asked Hoover to apply pressure on Walt. J. Edgar. Wow. And who was president during that time? Who was it? I'm curious.
When this film came out?
Would have been FDR and then Truman.
FDR, Truman.
FDR through nearly the end of the war, 46, 47.
Yeah.
I forget exactly what day he died and which year, but and by the way, we keep talking about them banning zippity doo-dah. We do understand, don't we? It wasn't just popular. It wasn't just well known. It won the Academy Award for Best Original Song that year, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
So, And in 1948, the post office issued a 3-cent stamp of Joel Chandler Harris.
Oh, wow.
On the 100th anniversary of his birth.
Darth Plato says, I hear academics in antebellum didn't talk about slavery when one group visited either north or south of the Mason-Dixon line. Yes, that type of discussion was verboten. How would I put it? Southerners were pretty much like, how dare you insult us by bringing up our peculiar institution. When Southerners would visit the North, it was the elephant in the room people didn't really talk about, unless you were abolitionists.
The word peculiar did not mean, as we use it, strange. It just meant specific and unique to a particular place.
Yes. Thank you for that clarification. Yes.
I'm just saying, because people just, they go by what they think they know, and I'm a pain in the ass about writing.
No, I'm glad you brought that up because
we've heard that phrase,
studied this for 10 years and read it, it's like second nature.
I mean, they were not admitting that they were oddballs, is all I'm trying to say, when they called it our peculiar institution.
No. To them, it was an economic institution. They should have the right to have that economic institution. And that was their whole thing until it came to an end.
Yeah,
And
that was
then
peculiar,
this
wasn't it?
period in time, they literally had to, it was a time of social upheaval, big time. If you read Booker T. Washington's autobiography, he talks a lot about what happens
Up from
during,
slavery?
yes, up from slavery. Yes, thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome.
He talks about this period of time, and if you read it, a lot of the rhetoric that you hear, and when he talks about there's a certain group of people who stand to profit from stirring up racial strife between white and black people, it could almost be written today.
And you got to remember, economically, the reason why the cotton in the South was such an economic boon, sure, it was in huge demand, especially, frankly, in England, because they had all the woolen mills too. But it was in demand because the labor cost was low, which meant whatever they marked it up was a big profit. But if you suddenly had to take into account you were paying people instead of owning them, that changes the entire equation. Kind of like having to unionize the characters at Disneyland who were dressing in what they call the dungeon underneath the castle. So, or because Gavin Newsom passed a $20 an hour minimum wage bill for everybody but his buddy who has Panera bread because, we can't put bakeries in the same category. But,
yes, folks, where you can watch the film, and I have it pinned as a comment, pinned comment, definitely not only go to the site at archive.org, but download the copy of the film as
because you
well.
never know when some lawyer is going to shut things down.
Exactly. You
That is
never
why I
Not even
tell
a
people,
lawyer. It's usually a bot.
Yeah, it
buy
happens all the
physical
time.
media. Buy
Mhm.
physical media, so at least you've got it.
Exactly.
Because who knows what
Oh,
if
and
they
yes,
if they still stream it, who knows how many edits or trigger warnings or whatever they're going to plop into it and ruin it. So
yes, it's now available on Amazon, actually,
yeah,
if you want to buy the physical copy.
Worth the
'cause
money.
I flipping need one. And you're so
This-
right, Trick Ron. Thank you so much for this comment. A lot of people miss the larger message from the Burr Rabbit stories. The point of this movie is not even about slavery. No.
Yeah, no, and
or
they
if it is, it's that you are a slave to your own ignorance and nothing more and nothing less.
yeah,
And that if you can get smart and get clever, you're going to be smarter and cleverer than 99% of the people who are trying to do you, because they aren't. They look big and impressive and scary, but when you get down to it, surprise, you're the winner.
Yeah.
That's a powerful message
and
that
if
all
you
kids should learn.
And if you could look at this movie and imagine that the people that are black in the movie are just the working class of this particular story, you get this different perspective. You don't get the whole racist part of it because it's not actually there. They're actually depicting what this was like at this time historically. They're not changing it. To suit anything. So I don't know. I just see a story. I don't see it as a negative thing.
Well, and in that regard, it may be partly why this has happened. So many things that should be stories have become political messaging in our era. And therefore they think everything is, whether it is or it isn't. It's the old if all you have is a hammer, everything's a nail point of view.
Right.
Well, the people are coming back to work the next morning singing.
Okay, it doesn't want to go full screen for me. Sorry about that. I'll just leave it right there.
Disney
So you
caught wind. They're
downloaded.
trying to stop your stream.
Yeah, it looks like there was some buffering too. The timing is a little off.
I'm like, you guys picked it. You said it was okay. And yeah, I know the captions are off a little bit. I basically had to use a third-party caption generator.
Yeah, well,
this. So.
I think that was brilliant, actually. So.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. And yes, there was cotton in Egypt too when the Civil War happened. Britain
Yes.
switched to Egypt only. Yes, because it was a Union blockade all around the South, from Richmond all the way
And of course, it was
to Galveston.
well-paid, totally free people in Egypt who were picking the cotton, right?
Wow.
that same free of
Think about
slavery
that.
society that built the pyramids as an entrepreneurial project, right?
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Joshua
Oh, that
Harris says
kid's
about,
standing up for her. Oh my gosh.
yeah, oh my goodness, that's some toxic masculinity.
Ah,
He's getting all beat up.
that's what
because
I
he's
call
trying to
being a
protect
true
little
gentleman
girl.
right there.
There you go. Uncle Remus had to set y'all straight about that. Said you go home. Go home. Joshua Harris says about
Uncle
the
Remus
tar
is so
baby.
cool.
I love this. So it's the only thing those who view the world through a racial lens don't understand is that the point is he is sticky, not black in color. Yes, sticky because of the tar.
Yeah.
I guess.
And that whole thing of him not answering him is regardless of whether he was black, white, green, or any other color. It's just a person should be polite, and therefore,
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly, because it was rude. Nita Cyboid Salt says the point of the story is
right,
love.
you are.
Absolutely, 100%.
Of course, people who either don't have, won't have, never will have, and don't really understand love and family are starting off appreciating this movie or not, regardless, with a handicap. And so it seems like the people who most hate it or most propagandize it are people who would never see that motivation because it doesn't exist in their lives, which is sad for them, but doesn't mean we have to follow them.
It's so true.
Very true. The people who would hate on this movie are the people who, ironically, never know how to respect people and the morals of this film to begin with.
Mm-hmm. And saving puppies.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes!
Puppies.
Save the puppies!
And also all of the people who came before who paved the way for everyone pretty much, especially when in the likes of actors and actresses and even the extras, so that way we could get Eddie Murphy and all of these other like huge superstars that we have today. Wouldn't have those guys if it wasn't for these people who sacrificed and worked so hard for this. So and it's just being swept under the carpet as a gone by time in which racism was the reason for them hating this movie. It just is
Well, they
really
sure could,
sad.
Nita.
It's really sad.
It's so sad. Stickiness refers to problems you can find yourself in. Exactly. It's like the more he fought, the more just like stuck he got and wasn't smart enough to figure out that maybe he kind of needed to stop fighting, or maybe he shouldn't have been so insulted in the first place.
Yeah. Because it wasn't, I think they even explained it, that it wasn't really his business whether, he got so excited about this for no particular reason and got in trouble.
Ooh, I'm just in time for the laughing place. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, the laughing
I got a
place.
laughing place. Everybody's got to have a laughing
He just has a
place.
chef hat at the ready.
How many times that they have it's almost like the Bugs Bunny cartoons where they wrap them up like in rope and get ready to roast
and he
them.
can conveniently get his hands out just to make a joke, but then goes right back to being captured. Like, I love it when cartoons actually take advantage of the fact, that they're a cartoon. Not enough shows do that now.
Reality television.
Yeah.
Never put those words together.
Absolutely. And Nita's been dropping some serious truth bombs in the chat, my dear. So many lessons on this movie. It's truly the very most important movie Disney ever made. And I have to
I think so
100%
too. Yeah.
agree with you.
Yeah.
There's so many wonderful lessons in this movie, and it's such a beautifully created movie and so much wonder in it, because when I was a kid and I saw it, I'm like, how do you get animated birds to land on you? I'm like, is this some place you can
Teach me your
get
ways,
that?
Uncle.
I know. Tell me, tell me. I don't get it. But this film, I used to watch this with my grandfather, and he loved Walt Disney.
Oh.
As a matter of fact, when the park opened, like when the park opened in 71, I wasn't born yet. Him, my grandmother, my mom's parents, they all went, and her grandmother, they all went to Walt Disney World. My grandfather was like, no, we gotta go. We gotta go. We gotta go there. And I would sit and watch films like this, with him. Some things that I didn't understand, and I'm like, "What's a tar baby?" And why are you laughing so hard? And nothing's really happened yet because he knew the story.
God, Nita, save old.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Oh, hold on 1 second. I'm like behind.
Thank you, Nita. Thank you always.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much. Let me catch up on the super chat.
Thank you, Nita. Thank you, Larry. And Larry, I really great mention here, like the old Tom and Jerry cartoons.
Oh, thank you. Tom and Jerry actress and Oscar nominee Lillian Randolph, It's a Wonderful Life, was Tom's original owner. She was removed, including her animation, made white, replaced by June Foray, Granny, which
June Foray is the voice of Rocky, by the way, and Rocky and Bullwinkle, among other voice
really
things.
Oh,
yeah, my mom used to work with her a lot. She did so much of the voices for Jay Ward.
Lillian Randolph. Okay, Tom's original owner. Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I remember this.
Yeah.
I had to laugh because I had to ask my mom stuff like that. I'm like, what's up with that? But I missed her. They should have never gotten rid of her. Cartoons haven't been the same. First of all, Anita, thank you. Oh my gosh.
That icon, that beautiful cat. No wonder they left such a great super chat.
Oh my God. Yes. Speaking
Nita,
of
in case you haven't seen Nolan, usually about the time he shows up live, there's a tail in the picture because his wonderful cat is cued to crawl all over him once he's on camera. So
look for that in the future. In my shelf right now than me, unfortunately, or else I would reward your super chat with some cats. But I guess not right now.
I mean, you won't see him, but if you see me looking down like this, it's because my cat Professor X is like, time to get off the stream. So he's
wait, your cat's name is Professor X?
Yes, he is.
Like Powerpuff Girls?
No, not Powerpuff Girls.
Sorry, Professor X, like X-Men. Okay, sorry.
X-Men, like Charles.
Mix up my professors here.
You know, that's like the people who like Wings and say, "Oh, the Beatles, wasn't that Paul's other band?"
The funny thing is, I knew exactly what you were talking about because I'm a Powerpuff Girls fan. So I was like, I hadn't thought about that like that, but. Thank you, Nita. That is. Thank you so much. I can't think. I'm grateful for like all the super chats. Oh my gosh!
Nita, if I can reword your wonderful super chat. Thank you for always supporting the truth. Blessings to you.
Yeah.
You are very welcome. I'm glad to be able to do it. Especially with you guys here, so thank you. You're gonna start to make me cry. that is without a doubt the biggest super chat I've like ever gotten. So
he is making the girl cry. Good job. Good job, Nina.
Right?
It means a lot, especially now, as you know, as you guys know, I was like laid off from my job last month. So I mean, I'm
Yeah.
looking for a new job, but um, you guys are helping to keep me sane. Besides
And
prayer.
can I be terrible, and not to self-congratulate myself, but to give people perhaps even some inspiration. Not everybody can be as generous as Nita wonderfully is. But if you're a member, if you're not a member, join. A couple of bucks won't hurt you, and it'll do a lot. But if you are, like I was at the base level, go up a notch. Go up a notch. A couple more bucks won't make a difference, and you're going to get value for money, because there's always something good going on here. In fact, you know, sometimes I was saying to Culture the other day, Lorena, where he always says, I saw a movie, so you don't have to. There's certain parts of your strolls through theme parks, especially around Tiana. I saw this mess, so you didn't have to. Should be your time. Because for those who are here for the movie and don't know, Lorena does the best walk-arounds in the parks.
Oh, yeah.
Going, bar none.
Oh, yeah. So informative.
Thank you. My favorite being, here's the bathrooms you really want to use. These are the ones you don't want.
Yes.
Those kinds of things are
they're important, especially when you come out of the park and you feel sick after going on a certain ride, and next thing you know, you're sitting next to a toilet. You'd rather be near a clean toilet.
Yeah. You kind of,
I can say from experience.
It's not just the general subject of cleanliness. It's that they always had a reputation for it, and you can only lose your reputation once. You know, it's going to take 5 years of cleaning them for everybody who found them dirty to ever think they will be. Siebold.
Oh, I said with the Y. I'm sorry, Siebold. Thank you. Now I have it in my
That's
mental.
what is it? Are there safes or locks or something with that name too, Nita? I think you related to those people.
A friend of mine, I was letting her know that we were watching Song of the South. She said her favorite line from the film: "If these stories are so bad, how come they last so long?"
Wow.
Oh, I love that. And yeah, this is where Johnny's Karen mom tells Uncle Remus to never see him again. It's funny that you mentioned this because what was I going to say? Because when my channel members and I, when we watched it together, that was the first thing people said. It's like, his mom is such a darn Karen. Her mother's trying to tell her the boy needs a father figure, you know, in his life.
Yes.
And she just doesn't want Uncle Remus to brand him.
If we were telling the absolute truth, we would tell her the boy needs a father figure in his life so he doesn't wind up working at the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique in a dress someday.
Oh,
well, she does.
Was that too far? That was probably too far. I'm sorry.
Well,
that's okay. We're past 30 minutes.
Yeah, she does say, "Oh, I can do everything for him," and the mom is like, "No." And I think it's the experience. She doesn't have experience with Uncle Remus like her husband does. He's the one that's actually got the experience with Uncle Remus and the grandmother. So she's like, some guy is telling my son what to do and influencing my son. You need to stay away from my son. You know what I mean? So it comes from a good place of wanting to protect her son and wanting her son to like listen to her, but she's unaware that he's actually feeding the little boy good stories about life and information that he can use to better himself in the long run. It's a coming of age story for the little boy.
Oh, this breaks my heart when he goes.
I was going to say this is something kind of rare for Disney, a movie with frankly a kind of unhappy ending. I mean, it makes the point, but I see. Well, see.
Wow.
Well, Florida families stick together there, Lorena.
That is so awesome. That is so cool. So cool. Which part of Florida? If you don't mind. Mine is Alachua County.
Oh, also Paul is acknowledging exactly what I was saying before, is that Uncle Remus can leave whenever he wants to. So how could he be a slave if he can leave the property without even telling anybody?
Exactly.
Go.
Proves people didn't watch it.
In 1919, German-born Miami industrialist John Siebold dredged the Wagner Creek, creating a turning basin, and that led to the naming of it as a canal.
Oh, wow.
There you go. And there's pictures and everything.
Nice. I love it. So now I'm going to check out some more about that.
Oh, look at this. Wait, I'm going to give you the...
Mom was just overwhelmed and wanted her son based on reality, not stories. She's overwhelmed keeping it all together by herself. And yes, that's absolutely true. And I'm glad Retro Nerd Girl had pointed that out, because again, with the context of the context of the Civil War and what was going on with the Civil War, a lot of men were away. So the women a lot of them had to fend for themselves in a way that they didn't have to before. So,
and for a long time, for several years.
Yes.
And for a very long time. So they can't, because you can see in a way where she's coming from about reality, because her reality, or what she thought was her reality before the Civil War popped off, was very different.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a harsh, reality of this is what things are now, instead of the way that I wish that they could possibly, that I wish they could be.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right with that. And as soon as he got into that 10, it's just, with the bull, I have to laugh in a way, because with my mom, she always told me this story. Alachua County, cattle freaking everywhere. Cattle, horses, all of that's there. And my grandmother's house was across the street from one of these cattle ranches. And my mother said, because they didn't have anything to do back in the day, is that they would agitate the bull.
Oh,
of course,
boy.
bulls are attracted to,
Red.
attracted to movement.
Yeah,
so they get like a 2x4 and would hit the fence to get the bull pissed off, and thought it would be real funny when the bull, hits the fence and can't go anywhere and then, falls down. Well, one day, my uncle, my aunt, my mom's brother, and my aunt, or my mom's brother, he decides that he's going to agitate the bull in a place where the fence, turns out, was not very secure. So the bull got out, chased them across. They barely escaped. Her brother threw her and her sister on the porch so they could get in the house, and they ran under the house.
Oh my God.
Why freaking do that? Well, as a country, we didn't have anything really to do, I'm like, why don't you just chase a chicken or something like that?
Man.
Oh my gosh. She said that's my great grandfather. Oh, no. I can't wait to look up some more about that. Love Florida
I found a
history.
great picture on Wikipedia. I put it over there. You might want to. It's steam yachts in that canal way back when.
Oh.
I love old boats, you see.
Okay. I'll look up that. I'll look at that picture. But yeah, the bull hit Johnny. Johnny went flying. Well, they didn't show you, but you can pretty much figure out what happened. He got a concussion.
Yeah.
And he's just talking about, that he wants to see, Uncle Remus, and then they're just like, they don't know if he's going to make it.
Disney movies making you want to cry, because I kind of want to start bawling right now.
Yeah,
it's so sweet.
You mean you didn't cry when Baby's mother died? Shame on you.
Well, it's okay. They're going to edit that out with the remake, so you don't have to see it no more.
No, yeah, it's too traumatic for children. That's out.
It was just,
Really,
yeah.
Larry? Yeah, well, my mom did a lot of shows with her in the old days, Larry.
Oh, this is
love to
also
sing.
Corliss Archer.
this is
and
for
a couple
Anita's
other
super
shows.
chat earlier. There we go. Thank you for the
Thank you.
donation to Lorena. She does not want to be involved in this in any way. God given Earth.
Like, what is this?
Put me
Gosh.
down, peasant.
Unhand me.
I was just so glad it just like when they're singing and you hear like the voices that that they're singing, so that's
Beautiful.
better. And
Can't believe this is all banned. Like you can't enjoy the songs and Cindy Duda is in Splash, so the main character sings it, so they'll have to cut that out of the movie.
Mm-hmm. I tell you, it is bored on a Saturday night, go agitate a bull. That's how they roll in Putnam County. I can't. I'm going to have to tell you guys stories about kids from the Philadelphia suburbs going to visit, their cousins in rural Florida. But they're like, let's go to the mall. Oh, really? And we go to the mall, and you know what their idea of a mall is? Like, oh gosh, what was it? Not a Montgomery Ward, but some department store I'd never heard of. And maybe 5 stores. Yes, JCPenney's, and it literally had like maybe 20 stores. We're just like, this is not a mall. This is
what?
Nah. Yeah. The town's only got like 2 stoplights in it. Well, I mean 3 now.
I'm sorry. No, that was what I was reacting. I meant like he's there with them in person. I'm like, wait, what is going on?
Yeah.
Like rabbit existence. Wow.
Yeah, like Bird Rabbit is real. That tripped me out when I saw that. I love that. It's just like
that's a good twist. I like that.
Yeah.
And they're all singing. And there's a darn frog that Bird Rabbit pissed off earlier.
Yeah. and he has a shadow. He has a shadow. Some of them, some of the animated characters have shadows. Some of them don't too, but there's quite a few of them that have shadows.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
Anita says, exactly, hard to be a war mother, just awful. And that's what makes the story so beautiful, when everyone puts aside differences and helped the family and prayed for the very ill boy. Yeah, I love that. I love that part. It just, you have no soul if that doesn't hit you.
And interesting, talking about war mother, one of the other roles that Johnny Driscoll played was as the young, not in the service brother of the Fighting Sullivans, when the whole family got wiped out in the war. And after that, they passed a rule that if brothers were in the service during World War II, they couldn't be in the same unit or the same location, so that a mother wouldn't be left with nobody.
Oh
my
and
God.
the movie's called The Fighting Sullivans, and he played the younger brother who was left at home with the mom.
I love this ending. You just feel
that is such a beautiful movie.
Good at the end, and I am, no joke. It's like I'm a tough chick. My family knows, like my sister, she cries at it. She cries at everything. But if I start crying, people get really freaked out.
That's when you know it hits the heart.
Yes. I mean, that ending, it gets me every single time. When I'm a kid, I'm like, and the little boy, he survived, and his dad was there, and they got to meet Bird Rabbit, and they're all, but yeah, it just did.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mark. And that's powerful what you said.
Yes, thank you, Mark.
Breaking off a piece of my coming literal windfall for the edutainment, for all the fun streams in the background as I work claims, for giving the truth a home, so few will the reasons grow each day. Well,
can I suggest something to people out there? I have always said that when you learn the truth, it gives you an obligation to share it. So the next time, now that you've watched this movie, and now that you know how to get to it with all the sound and everything intact, the next time anybody tells you about, oh, well, that's that racist movie, say, have you ever seen it? And you know they're going to say no, and at least give them the link and give them a chance to discover the truth, because it'll not only enlighten them on the truth of the specifics of this, it will say to them, as it should, well, if the people who told me that lied, what else are they lying about?
Yeah. And I also think we should fight for movies, because when this happened, there was hardly anything, really anybody to protest this. And there should be, at least if not anything, discourse about it. There was no conversation. It just was gone. And we didn't really get to hear points of views of why this movie, or points to support the movie positively.
And, you know, it may be, as much as we will be disappointed, we know from what we already know that this new attraction is going to be kind of a far come down from the original. But parents out there who may take their kids to the park, and they may ride Tiana's adventure, and they may like it, which is fine. But someday when they're old enough and they ask you, well, how did that come to be? Tell them the truth and show them this movie, because that's a lesson that it would be good for your kids to learn too. How people can get stampeded into something totally wrong by people who are looking to manipulate them. And by the way, this story that Pro wrote from his interview, he actually has a video of this interview with Valerie Stewart talking about her father, and it's pretty touching stuff.
It is. It's especially touching when I remember when Pro first interviewed her, and also when she was on Twitter. I was just like, your dad was the voice of Bird Bear. It was like celebrity, you know, to me. And then hearing her story and hearing how pretty much she was like royalty, and, you know, in Black Hollywood. And when she talks about the theater that her parents put together, and how many greats went through there, including the actor who played the father on Good Times. He was actually in that theater group. And when she's talking about what they're doing, or what they've done anyway with Splash Mountain, with how much history is being thrown away with that, hearing it through her voice, it did two things to me. One, it made me really, really angrier about what was being done to Splash Mountain. And the second thing is that I resolved that whatever I had to do, I was going to use my platform to inform people of what the truth is. And when she passed away, that just kind of reinforced what I wanted to use my platform for, because there's so much of this is getting lost, and it's very, very easy. Yes. It doesn't take much to go along with what people, you know, with what people are saying. When they say it's this, it's racist, it's that, whatever. But you start asking questions. What exactly about it is that? Where is it, so I can see it for myself? Find out for myself, not what someone tells you and you just take it for granted like a lemming. No. So I always say on this channel, I keep it real, I keep it spicy, because we are going for the truth on this channel. And
preach it, sister.
And you know, it's kind of funny. We live in an age where finding out the real stuff has been a priority, with truth in labeling on products we buy, and truth in disclosures and contracts we enter. Everything else but opinion gets looked at under a microscope. It's time maybe that should translate into the world of opinion and fact and fantasy too.
Very well said.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Better late than never, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's really sad. I heard a celebrity say something about Gone with the Wind, that they happened to be African American, that they would like it to just disappear, and it broke my heart. I was like, no, you don't understand that that is a movie that is meant to teach. It's a teaching movie. You will lose the lessons that it has by just removing it from history. And there's a lot of people who just don't want the history to even be seen, and change it. And you can't. Doing that is actually robbing our ancestors of their right to be seen.
That's 100% accurate, Retro Nerd Girl, because I remember, and thank you, Kiss My Grits, for that super chat. I'm going to get right back to that in a minute. I'll actually leave this up while I talk. I remember as a kid, because I love cinema, I love movies. I don't care what it is. If it's a good movie, I want to sit and watch it. One of the movies that I wanted to watch was Gone with the Wind. And I spent my own money to rent it and watch it. And I remember my father would not shut up about how he thought, how could I sit and watch this movie? I don't understand how you can sit there and watch this film. And I'm just like, what do you mean? I'm like, it's a gorgeous film. I just wanted to see, for myself, because when people talk about great movies, great American films, Gone with the Wind is one of those films, along with, the likes of The Wizard of Oz. So obviously I wanted to watch it for myself to see what it was like, to say that, that I'd seen it. But he's constantly saying, I don't know why you want to look at that. They've got slaves in it. They've got whatever in it. Well, if I hadn't watched this film, I would have never found out who Butterfly McQueen was.
Oh, yes.
And what she got for being in this film. She will always be associated with this film. When people didn't really see Black people on screen. Yes, it was a part as a maid, but guess what? She made a crap ton of money when she did this, and she's forever known for that particular role. So you're very, very
there was
right.
no separate scale for Black versus white actors or directors or anybody. It was, if you do the work, you get the reward. Period.
As it should be.
As and maybe that's what they really hate, is meritocracy.
You're absolutely right about that.
By the way, you want a curious 6 degrees of separation? What currently on our screens major star who's lasted through time is indirectly associated with the making of Gone with the Wind? You'll never get it, so I'll just tell you.
Yeah, please.
His last name is Kong, and his first name is King.
King?
Because when they were shooting The Burning of Atlanta, which we referred to at the beginning of the show, they took a whole bunch of old sets and dressed them up in antebellum bric-a-brac and burned them. And one of the things that burned when they shot that night was the Great Wall from King Kong that he's behind in the Jungle Kingdom.
What?
That burned in the Gone with the Wind. Yes.
Okay, wow. I definitely need to see this movie now.
And if you go look, there's a Turner documentary on the making of Gone with the Wind that I mentioned, I think, about all the screen tests of the various people. But that shot is in there too, highlighted, and they circle the area, and then you suddenly recognize that piece of wall as what it is, because they built kind of a phony gingerbready facade around the front of it to do it. And by the way, Clark and Vivian were not there. It was stunt doubles and a buckboard running through Atlanta. So
that's almost as crazy as the story I heard about how in King Kong versus Godzilla, there's this giant octopus that attacks on Kong's island, and it's attacking the tribe there and stuff. And apparently after they filmed the scene, apparently one of the producers of the film ate the octopus.
Oh.
Poor octopus.
Anyway, but there's Gone with the Wind. The point being, in a kind of philosophical way, because that's what I do.
Oh my God! At 365,
our past goes to the future. Yeah, our past leads to our future, even within the movie industry.
It does, and you do not. There's no reason to censor these films. There's no reason to put a trigger warning on the film. The only trigger warning you need is this movie worth your time or not?
Yeah.
That's the only trigger warning that
I've cited it before. National Review did a great thing called the "Suddenly Was Everyone Was Run Over by a Truck" School of Social Dramatic Criticism. And what they said is, if you're reading a book, if you're watching a movie, if you're seeing a play, if you turn the page, if it cuts to the next scene and it says, "Suddenly everyone was run over by a truck," do you still give a damn or not?
Yeah.
If you do, it's a good story. If you don't, you shouldn't have started in the first place.
It's like with that movie, the Lake House, where you see, the opening with Sandra Bullock, with I guess the young man that she talks to, like the person who died. There was someone like who died under her care, and you feel how she feels that particular loss. I don't want to spoil the movie because I love that movie. Oh my God, I like tears coming out. I love it. But anyway, kind of like that. And they had a moment also like that in the new Planet of the Apes movie.
Oh, I want to see it.
Where as soon as that moment happened, the collective gasp in the audience, you knew you cared if dude got hit by a bus or something, something like that. That's that moment where it's like, okay, now I really I gotta find out what happens to this person. 365 RAL, thank you for the $5 super chat. I've seen you drop in amazing insights in the chat. Says Reina, I feel the same about Walt Disney. He can't stop Iger's regime from bad-mouthing him, so I try to stick up for him when I can. And God bless you for doing that. There's a lot more of us out there. And there's some of us who, individual shareholders, every chance we get, pushing back. At one shareholders meeting, I think one guy, he drove like a couple of hours. He's like, I only have like 2 shares of stock. But he said the problem with the Walt Disney Company is you have too many Roys and not enough Walts. When are you going to get back to the storytelling?
Yeah,
Roy got a bad name over that too, I think. But I get his point.
He kind of did, because with Roy, Roy was just like, look, you got to work with me here, okay? You really got to.
Anybody would look, the more reserved one next to Walt Disney.
This is true.
Well, but the story they tell about Roy on opening day, right? Not the media opening day that we've seen in the video, but the next real day when it was just open to the world. They're waiting and there's nobody there. And the park opens and there's next to nobody there. And Roy is sitting in the office going, oh, God, we made a terrible mistake. We're going to blow everything. People aren't coming. And finally, at about 10:30 in the morning, this kid comes running into Roy's office and says, Mr. Disney, we've got a huge problem. He says, what? He says, well, people are finally showing up. They were stuck in traffic, and it took them a long time to get here from L.A., and they were in the parking lot, and their kids are peeing all over the parking lot. What are we going to do? And Roy looked up, smiled, and said, let them pee. And knew, oh my God, we're saved, because that's why they were all so late, because they couldn't get there.
Lou has the
stranger than fiction. Lou, I'm literally tearing up right now from that story.
Well, don't go too far. We'll close the room.
Okay, why did they have that in National Lampoon's Family Vacation when they went to Wally World?
Sorry.
Yes.
You need to put
was that Magic Mountain.
You need to put that on a watch party one day, Lorena. Vacation. That's such a good movie.
You know what? I am. I'm trying to decide if that's going to be before or after a Goofy movie, because we gotta watch a Goofy movie.
Oh, there's a throwback.
The Goofy movie.
Well, that Wally World was Six Flags Magic Mountain in real life, which is also the climactic scene of the movie Roller Coaster, which, Plugola, happens to be this week's Genre Guys movie. So look for that to come out for those of you who are members on the Pro Channel, which is a great movie. George Segal and Richard Widmark and Henry Fonda and Timothy Bottoms is blowing up roller coasters all over the country.
Man. Yeah, I do.
Does the film happen to feature, I'll definitely do a bit of research into this, but does it feature any prominent roller coaster that's still there today? Like
oh yeah,
historic
sure.
one?
The Revolution at Six Flags is the big finale. And at the time, that was the first
Nice.
looping coaster in North America, I think, and the biggest so far.
Mhm.
That reminds me of how those who don't know, there was an episode of the Brady Bunch where they used a roller coaster from Kings Island, Ohio, and they used the ride the Racer. And the joke is that something went wrong on the ride. So the joke is that it almost killed the Brady Bunch once.
Wow.
Oh.
Ooh.
Well,
Oh wow. Yeah, I mean it's not going well for him. So I tell people, you know what, you get the truth out with every platform that you have available to you. So, you know, the let's put it this way, the bloom is off the rose when the majority of stuff that people watch on Disney Plus is the old stuff and Bluey, you got a problem.
Big problem.
You know, a
Mhm.
huge
and by
problem.
the way, I noticed people, and you're absolutely right, Joshua, of course, as
Yeah.
usual.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
some people saying that thank us for being here and they were going to buy this on Amazon. Anybody out there who keeps Disney Plus because of Bluey should know that for $19.95 you can buy the first 2 seasons of Bluey on DVD from Amazon, and I'm sure the
That's it.
rest of them. Yeah. And
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
consider that $20 for something that your kids can watch forever, because people do, versus paying however much you're paying a month to put up with all the other, when all you really care about is that one show. That's, you wonder why they're trying to de-emphasize permanent media. That's why, because you
That's why.
choose and you keep it and you own it. And
Mhm.
and then you see
Yeah.
all these stories. Yeah, but in 25 years in 25 years my kids won't be watching Bluey anymore, and they can buy
Yeah.
a new copy for their kids. So
Yeah. Well,
Well,
I'll tell you like a little interesting story. I bought ages ago the digital copy of Conan the Destroyer on Amazon
ooh,
Prime. And I went to go look at it this weekend, and of course, it's gone because it's just not available anymore. I bought that digitally, so that was my problem. I should have
yeah,
bought the
yeah,
actual hard copy, and that was before the early days of digital, where we thought, oh, that we'll have access to it forever. You don't. You do not have access to it
yeah.
forever. So especially for Amazon, where they allow you to buy your those digital copies of things, you don't get to keep them forever.
no, they don't belong to you. And years ago, I used to think that it was ridiculous that I had all these physical copies because I'm an infamous Walmart DVD bin surfer. You know, when they have those big
Right.
huge bins with the DVDs in it, and I'm like, which one can I get? And I'm like, oh, it's $5. You know, I'll just buy
And
it and put
especially
it
now
aside.
they put out like the whole series of movies with all their sequels on one disc and make it. The other day I saw, and I'm not a huge fan of the later ones, but I just thought it was too funny what they called it, so I bought the whole damn thing. Airport, the Terminal Collection, with Airport 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all on the same
Nice.
disc, but the Terminal Collection.
I tell
Instead
you,
of calling them disc
gotta
1,
get it.
disc 2, disc 3, can they call it gate 1, gate 2, gate
That would have
3?
been clever. I
Oh,
don't. I've
that
never
would
opened it yet. I don't know, but that would have been clever. Oh.
Oh, thank you, Anonymous, for tipping that $10. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. You guys help keep the lights on, StreamYard bill paid. Um, Many iced coffees, cold brews when I'm out of the parks when it's absolutely hot. Joffrey's coffee, thanks you and I thank you. Um, thank you guys so much. I appreciate all of it. Your hard-earned money and I so appreciate it. And thank you so much, Nita, for subscribing. Thank you. I so appreciate the subscription. Thank you. Thank you. Yes,
And Nina, now
definitely.
that you're in
Oh, God.
the group, you've got to watch some of Lorena's walkarounds at the parks, because she sees and shows us things that other people walk right by and are oblivious to. She really does.
Yes.
There's
It's
stuff.
really
Gertrude Stein supposedly said about Hollywood, behind the fake tinsel, there's real tinsel. Well, Lorena sees the real tinsel.
Yeah.
I do. I will go in stuff places all over. It's fun. It's like I love to do it.
And John, they won't find him or her inside the company today. As long as they keep going from within, it's not going to get any better.
No,
I'm sorry.
The one
to say
they
that's
had,
true.
they kicked out for hugging people too much, and that would be John Lasseter. But he's at Netflix now.
Well, what gets me is when they said of Peltz, well, he has no media experience. They're doing this sports deal that's totally screwed up, and we're going to sell the NFL without telling the NFL how we're going to sell it, and we're going to sell the NBA without telling them when we make the announcement. And by the way, we just bulldozed their attraction, but we're doing fine. We have media experience. Meanwhile, Nelson Peltz ran Madison Square Garden Network, but no, that's not media experience. That doesn't matter.
I'm just hoping that they'll wind up bundling Disney Plus and Hulu onto Max, because I get HBO Max for free. So
I'm hoping that I get I forget which
Paramount Plus with the Walmart, because I have that too,
and I get Peacock through whatchamacallit, DoorDash. If you have DoorDash, you get Peacock for free. If you're on their
weird
membership
bundle.
program.
That is
I don't understand the Food Network, but
but it's you got to order your pizza so you can watch the movies or something like that.
True. Okay, yeah, kind of a group thing. I guess I get that.
In fact, it's funny. This weekend, I went to a restaurant here that has the best fried chicken in the universe, and they've got 4 or 5 here and a few more in Alabama. It's the first time I've ever been in the restaurant, and I've lived here 6 years and eat their chicken all the time. But I get it through DoorDash. So it was like, is this what it really looks like, So
but that's interesting. Although I will say about Peacock, if they do this year like they did last year, if you go to Halloween Horror Nights, you will get Peacock for several months for free.
Wow.
They did that last year, but that was with Five Nights at Freddy's, because Five Nights at Freddy's, the movie came out on Peacock and in theaters. So if you went to Halloween Horror Nights, you got Peacock for I think like 3 months.
We're planning a trip for Halloween Horror Nights later this year, so hope that's still on the table.
Yeah, let me know when you're going, because I'll be there.
When it gets to
heck yeah,
Vegas.
definitely will be. Oh, that's gonna be fun. It's gonna be so fun. I'm so hyped.
Halloween Horror Nights, man, it's crowded, but it's so darn worth it.
Man, I've seen your video stuff. When I saw the Megans last year, I wanted to go so bad.
It was just so awesome. And Paul, this is a good one to end the stream on. That pick is the true and original real DEI for all.
Yes.
Each deserves their spot 100%. And I love this picture. I love the shot. I love this film. And yeah, please do. If you haven't, first of all, try to get it on physical media.
Yes.
Definitely try to do that, get on physical media. But if for some reason you cannot get it on physical media, rip that copy off of archive.org, press it, burn it to a DVD so you have it, make several copies. It's not piracy, okay? It's on archive.org. All right. That's where it
belongs in a museum.
Yes, it does. That's one of my taglines actually for my channel, is that these movies are historical documents. They're not just for entertainment. They may entertain you for the moment, but they are time capsules and they need to be preserved. They don't need to be banned.
I'll follow your line with another from that movie, only slightly changed. Do you know what the culture is, Indy? It's a transmitter. It's a telephone for talking to God.
Ooh.
And that's what movies like this are.
Yeah. They just are. I love them.
Magical.
I love this film. Love the film. Yeah, it's a gorgeous, gorgeous picture. And just
And movies unite people.
Of
We
everything.
need more of that. Movies are to unite, not to divide.
They look at this. So this is my copy.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's so cute.
It is loved.
And I have to thank my youngest sister for finding it. I think she absconded with it for a while and then gave it back to me. But look,
be careful.
So cool.
Look at that. It's I
be
would
careful
read.
of younger siblings absconding with family stuff. You don't get it
Yes.
back all the time.
Yeah.
Yes, I got
not wrong.
I'm
Pluto.
steamed over one right now, actually, but
I got Pluto
no,
back.
I'm sorry, Lou.
And I got this book back. But I would sit there and I would read the stories. I would read the stories to her, and I love the art in this, and I need to have it like rebound because it's been very, very loved
Yes,
over the
very
years.
loved.
And when I heard about, Song of the South being, quote unquote banned, I'm like, I gotta find my book. I gotta find my book. And then when I found it,
You owned a
funny,
banned book.
you can't get this one, and I have an anthology of the Dr. Seuss books. I said, yeah, try get this one.
You just have the tax collector from like Robin Hood showing up at your door trying to steal the movie from you because they can't change it on digital.
Mhm. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for subscribing, Voice Talent Brendan. First of all, this stream has I mean, I can't believe how many people are here. We're here throughout the whole thing. Thank you so very much. This one was super important, super important to do. So I want to thank all of my panelists for being here. Thank you, Ron, for dropping in. When you could, and again, just spread the word and the knowledge, and most importantly, the true spirit of this film. So please do go and share it. So let's go around, talk about our channels, where you can be found and what you got going on. So let's start with Retro Nerd Girl. What you got going on, and where can people find you?
Oh, well, guys, you can find me on YouTube, Retro Nerd Girl. I review a lot of old movies, and I do watch parties on Saturdays as well, usually a little bit earlier than this. And it's just been a great time. Come on over to my channel, look around, see if there's anything that might appeal to you. And I hope to see you in the comments.
All right. Absolutely. Yes. Subscribe to Retro Nerd Girl if you love retro films, especially cool retro films like 1960s Planet of the Apes, which is one of my favorite ones. Go to her channel. We did a watch party for the Vincent Price version of The Fall of the House of the Usher.
That was so good.
Freaking love that movie on so many levels.
He was a special person too.
Yes.
I told you when I got to meet him, right? It was the Mondavi Winery was doing a special evening dinner for Halloween called Pinot, Price, and Poe. And it was a candlelit room with a great dinner with Pinot Noir and Edgar Allan Poe being read by Vincent Price.
Oh, wow.
It was just amazing. Amazing.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Speaking of amazing, because Lou has some of the most amazing story. I need to have him. I need to do an interview with him where I told you guys I need to start doing, the Reina's True Hollywood stories.
Wait, you think all my stories are true? It's the truth. It's actual, and hopefully it's satisfactual. But no, I'm actually tomorrow. Vash and I are going to try doing a live Hollywood studio with Lou and you and all that. But I don't even know
be
what time.
hyped, people. It's gonna be good.
Oh well,
yeah.
And we've got some more plans. And then of course I show up on all the other things just because I get asked. I'm a pushover for a nice ask, especially from a nice lady like our host.
Oh, wow.
I want to steal that, but I'm afraid it's going to get me in trouble.
You have a dirty mind. That's all I
You only can tell that now.
Well, you know that story, right? The guy goes to the psychiatrist and he does the ink blot test and he shows him the first swirl of ink and he says, "What do you see? Any answer's right. There's no wrong answer." He says, "I see two people having sex." Oh, interesting. He goes to the next one. He says, what do you see now? He says, 2 people having sex. He goes to the next one. He says, what do you see? He says, 3 people having sex. The doctor says, this is a very preliminary diagnosis, but it seems like you're kind of obsessed with sex. And he says, me, doc, you're the one with all the dirty pictures. So anyway, so it's all in how you look at it, Nolan. It's all in how you look at it.
Very true.
Well, Lou is part of That Park Place, and definitely please do check out That Park Place, the website, That Park Place, the channel, WGW Pros channel, and of course T3PO. Definitely check out that channel,
That's a great channel.
especially as Vash is now full time with that channel. So
Let's
congratulations.
go, Vash.
I'm really enjoying your talks together with
well,
Vash.
thank you
They're
very
really
much.
fantastic. As much as I love old Hollywood, that
We
is
do this
really
live
just
show
great.
sometime between, say, 10 or 11 in the morning and 3 or 4 in the afternoon tomorrow, but I'm not quite sure when yet.
Okay.
I just follow orders, So
They just let them know. They just let them know where to
when to plug in the microphone.
Kind of like when I was dating this one actor, he was so bad at knowing where he had to be. The agent would call me and say, okay, you know where he's got to be. They're here at this place at this time. I'm like,
and you're smiling and saying, and where's my slice of your commission?
Exactly. Where's my money? Where's my money? Nolan, where can people find you and what do you have going on, my dear?
Oh, thank you so much. Well, you guys can find me on youtube.com at Nolan Thunder. I cover lost media and video game history and urban legends and all that good stuff. So if you like a little bit of documentary, comedy, and a bit of horror B-movie type horror in your videos, it's going to be a fun time. Coming up on May 23rd, I have a video coming out in celebrations of the new Paper Mario game coming out. A deep hidden secret in one of the Paper Mario games. It's going to be a lot of fun. It should be coming out sometime that day. And then if you want to see me on the more this kind of sphere of the internet, I tend to appear. I'm part of That Park Place. I write some articles with the help of my editor-in-chief, John F. Trent. If you guys want some video game coverage, it's a fun place to check out. And you'll see me dance around a bit, especially when Miss Lorena hosts these wonderful, wonderful streams, and honored to be here. And it made our night very wonderful and blessed. So thank you for making 70-something people's nights that much better.
Yes.
And all the people they tell. And all the people they tell.
And
you are your own VO5 commercial.
And so on. And so on. And so.
Oh, man, I used to love those commercials.
I loved them. I so did. Oh my god.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate just how important and how special it is. I'm so glad that you invited me today, Lorena. And this is really a very, very important stream to get out there the message that there should be more discourse, more conversation about these so-called controversial movies and what they actually mean for people. And in the long run and the human race in general. So just really excited, to see how this video or live stream will perform later on as more and more people discover it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so glad all of you here. Especially you retro nerd girls. We've been doing like these watch parties and stuff. So it's nice, even though we usually have the both of us, but to have some guests pop in because this was truly a very.
I finally got to meet Retro Nerd Girl. It took too long.
and to those who haven't met her before, I said the first time I met her and sitting in that eyrie up there in the sky overlooking Earth, that we had to get her one of those purple wigs from UFO because she looked like she was up there guarding the galaxy. And then
That's
what was our
coming.
bet, Lorena? How many people do you have to have before you have one of those purple UFO girl wigs?
Did I say that was 8 or did I say that was 10?
I don't. Whatever. I trust you.
I don't know because somebody said one of them is the Ahura cosplay, and I don't remember which one. You know what? I think the Ahura cosplay is 8, and I think I said 10. I do UFO.
Okay, well there you go. Just so Shadow is on watch.
Let me know. I will get a purple wig for that one. So if it's for 10, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. You gotta have
You
purple
won't be
wig and
alone.
the silver outfit. You gotta have silver
Well,
outfit.
yeah, you
And,
gotta have the
and
silver.
I want Commander Straker's car from that show.
Oh yes.
It's the sexy version of the Tesla wagon, you know.
Space Knight.
If you ever watch that show, by the way, notice something. Nobody has any pockets.
Yes, no
I'm
pockets.
saying, oh, the men, the women, none of the uniforms have pockets. I'm going, where do they keep the keys to the spaceship? You know, but anyway.
Oh yes,
Yes,
I
she
am.
is.
Nita. She is on YouTube. I have to update the video description, but yes, she is indeed on
Oh,
YouTube.
thanks for asking.
So if one of the mods can grab her channel and put it in the chat real quick, I'd appreciate it. But yes, I will have it down. You can just do a search on YouTube, find
yeah,
a
yeah.
Retro Nerd Girl.
There can be only one.
There can
that
only
is
be one retro nerd?
Yeah,
Oh
Well,
man,
no.
I'm out of the business.
Oh no, there can be many.
All
There
right,
can be many.
you get the title. Been nice knowing y'all. Have fun with it, Retro Nerd Girl.
Oh, yes,
No,
this is why
there
we
are
are
many.
doing watch parties the right way. Yes, absolutely. And if you are a channel member, we actually watch them on screen via the magic of the StreamYard webinar, which is you guys supporting my channel. I can get that premium package with StreamYard, so we can do that. Let's see, what movie did we just watch recently? Trying to remember which one it was. Was it Monty Python and the Holy Grail?
Oh wow.
I know we watched that one.
That was problematic because you got a super chat that consisted not of money but of a shrubbery.
A shrubbery. Oh gosh, that was so much fun. We watched that. I know we're watching Spaceballs pretty soon. Watching that one on screen. And of course, because now it's a tradition, thanks to Ahsoka, when the Acolyte drops.
Oh. And we do mean
Leroy Jenkins.
There you go. We will be watching it, roasting it, and live roasting, reviewing it. And what I do is the review part, I put that up there to YouTube because frankly, with Ahsoka, now people are looking forward to, reactions to it. So
well, maybe if Tiana's flops, they'll retheme it to Star Wars and call it the Super Ahsoka for the splash.
Nice.
Thank you, Samuel Main, for gifting that one Reina Creole membership because
it went to me.
Like Nolan Thunder got it.
Oh,
so
wow.
Who's that guy?
Thank you, Samuel Main. So much for us. So much for doing that. So I really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for your support of this stream. If you're watching this on a replay, thank you so much for watching on the replay, and let us know in the comments what you think about this film now that you've been able to quote unquote see it. Definitely let us know.
Yeah, I'm gonna come back to this and definitely take a look at the comments because I'm just so curious as to what people won't be saying.
Likewise.
Oh, thank you. And
thank you guys so much for being here. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much to all of my amazing panelists for being here on the panel. And subscribe to everybody. And we will see you next time. Bye.
Later.